Good to go. What's up, everybody?
Good
This
to
is
go.
Karak with ACG, and I'm here with
I'm Dustin from Colin's Last Stand and Handsome Phantom.
Handsome Phantom. We are doing
Wow.
number 272 of the Ham Radio Podcast. We are sans Matty. He's abandoned us, basically.
Yeah, last week it was just him, and now it's just you and me. So I don't know. Maybe is Maddie leaving the show?
Is Matty
on
leaving
his
the show?
own channel?
That is awesome. I had forgotten that. Yeah, Matty. We just want to announce Matty has decided to move on from his own show. We'll be taking it over. You know, it's funny too, because when I started, I was talking about this prior to hitting the record button. Is I would always fuck up the name too, and when I came on, I forget how people they're really tied into this show. Like he's got those long-time subscribers, and I would call it Ham Radio Broadcast because that's what a ham radio to me is a broadcast. And so when I jumped on and no one corrected me, I think it's because they were just like, that's just Karak. That's just Karak being him. And the entire time I was not. And one time I did it solo and I was like, Ham Radio Broadcast. And people were all over me. I was like, people take this shit serious, man. They take everything Matty does. You know, it's like, it's solid. It's serious for him. We can't joke around. So we're going to be really serious.
Right.
Everything's going to be super serious. I'm going to get my serious news mood.
Right.
Yeah, Matty couldn't make it, man. So I appreciate everybody jumping in. I put in for people to ask questions, and Dustin will check those later. Hopefully some people have a couple. I think we saw 4 or 5 before I even posted that. He will be back, of course, next week, but we're going to jump in and talk about some stuff. I looked here, and it looks like Matty did discuss some things on his podcast, so we won't be overlapping with anything Matty has discussed. If you guys did not get a chance, check out, let's see, that is 271. Yep, and he uploaded that, it looks like 2 days ago. So if you guys want to hear the last one from him, that's 2 days ago. And let's jump into it. First of all,
Nice.
what is it? It's $1 for Matty's podcast. If you want early access, it's $1 for the Discord. $3 for the patron, or is it $1? Can't remember.
I want to say that I think the Discord it's more than $1.
Is
I
it
think
$3?
that's like the $3 or $5
Gotcha.
level. But
how about this? It's less than
worth it.
$100 and therefore worth it. So
Right.
whatever Matty charges will get you access to his amazing Discord for less than $100. Go check it out if you get a chance. Do you guys run a Patreon on yours, Dustin?
We do. Yeah, we have a Handsome Phantom Patreon that you can get early access to our podcast and stuff like that. And then, of course, on the other side, there's the Colin's Last Stand Patreon as well, which is a whole different beast since there's a lot of people on that one.
Yeah, and I mean, we've never talked about this. Actually, we've never talked about this, which is funny. But do you guys struggle to, like, you get a lot of emails? Do you get a lot of requests? Are you handling those? Because I get a lot, even for only 1,000 patrons. Just people asking for stuff for Colin. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, we get tons of messages every day on Patreon, and a lot of it is clerical type stuff, like people figuring out their RSS feeds, and a lot of them are just messages to Colin, letting him know about how much they appreciate the show and stuff like that. And so, I mean, one thing with CLS is that everyone, even though we have more than 10,000 patrons, everyone, I'm pretty sure nearly everyone gets a reply, no matter what, on the Patreon, or whether you message us. However, we just introduced Discord, the official Colin's Last Stand Discord, which has been very cool. But it's also, there are so many people on it. So we've been working through that, but it's been fun. So, and I don't know if you saw this, Karak, but I was on Sacred Symbols, not this week, but the week before, the last 2 weeks before that. So pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think you talked about it when we were talking to Matty. So how many different fucking podcasts does he have?
Okay, so there's Sacred Symbols.
Right.
There's the Patreon exclusive Sacred Symbols Plus, which is a bonus episode every week. There's Knockback, which is the retro podcast he does with his brother. And then, so as far as podcasts, that's it at the moment.
That's 3 a week.
Yeah.
Damn. That's what I do a week. It's tough.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I mean Knockback is usually like a 2 to 3 hour show. And then there's Sacred Symbols, which is usually between 2 and 2.5 hours. Sacred Symbols Plus is a bit shorter. It's usually under 2 hours,
Yeah.
like hour and a half. So yeah, it's a lot of stuff we're doing, but it's exciting and people enjoy it, so we're happy to do it.
Yeah, it's been cool to see, especially like with Colin, Maddie. Colin came on here, which was cool, and sort of get people from the industry, especially because Maddie, I mean, he's a bigger channel. I'm a bigger channel, but not huge. And so it was cool to have Colin be nice enough to come on because I say nice enough. I know, obviously, he go on a smaller
Right.
channel, but it's still very cool to see people come together and stuff like that. It's awesome to hear you guys doing Discord because Discord's been like I'm in Maddie's Discord, my own, and about 15 Dungeon and Dragons Discords and all this stuff. And it's
Yeah.
Discord has become. We can talk about this actually at some point, but Discord's become this. It's something's very cool about the fact that I grew up in a time where if I wrote a friend in Austria, it would be like a like a pen pals situation where
Mhm.
it would legitimately be me with hand, and then it went to like typing on a typewriter, or whatever, or computer. I guess it would have been computer even at my young age. And then now it's Discord. And even in my podcast, the international podcast, that's why it's called that, because it's like people from all corners of the world. And it's so
Right.
weird, dude. It's so weird. Like I'll get somebody from Japan and it's 3 a.m. or whatever for them, where it's like 5 p.m. for me. And it's amazing for gamers that not only like just games, but like Colin. Be like, all right, everybody's going to come together. Or MrMatty's. Like that could never have happened before. Like, because I was,
Right.
for example, I loved Next Generation magazine when I was a big video game magazine fan. But the only way to talk to fans of that would be for me to hold it and give it to somebody and say,
Right.
I would never know somebody in another state, let alone another nation. There's something so cool about the technology now, man, and everybody being able to get together and talk about these things. It's fucking
Yeah.
phenomenal.
It's so awesome. And I mean, it's weird because I remember like obviously in the earlier era of the internet, people were very spooked about meeting people
Oh,
from the
true.
internet.
Yeah, right.
And I think that there's still definitely reason to be
Mm-hmm.
cautious, of course. But like, for example, we at Handsome Phantom, two of our writers, both Dave and Sabrina, we exclusively met because they reached out to us about writing for our site. And now we've gone to PAX together.
You're right.
We're like, it's a friendship beyond just the website. And so it's just weird to think about. It's like, the ability that technology has given us, and whether it's on a micro level just with a few people, or being able to engage in a giant community altogether, it's good. It's funny because I think that especially right now it's easy to get caught up in a lot of the negative
Right, right.
aspects, and that's especially for me lately. I've just been feeling like the weight of social media in certain, like, the negative is kind of like, oh, is my brain addicted to this? Is this changing the way I think about things in a
Mm-hmm.
negative way? And it's easy to get caught up in that. And I think it's, just it's a reasonable thing to be concerned about, of
Yeah,
course.
right.
Um, but you can't overlook the positives as well.
Speaking of positives, we're going to move on from there. I think I do have a patron as well. I forgot that. If you guys want to check it out, ACG, we're going to discuss some various things that we played. And I think, even though we mentioned it last in our discussion, we're going to talk about it first because I want to talk about Squadron. Star
Hell yeah.
Wars Squadrons. It finally came out. First of all, this game is only, well, I say only, I apologize. But it is at a slightly cheaper rate of 49, right? 49?
39.
39. There is no planned microtransactions whatsoever. There isn't even a store hook, by the way. There is no DLC, at least so far, planned. Of course, bug fixes. We just got the joystick input fix yesterday, and it allows you to jump in and do dogfighting, 5 versus 5, and then after fifth level, I think, is when it unlocks the Warzone style, which allows you
Whoa.
to like go against battleships and move your, if you do better, you sort of go farther into their territory and stuff. So I'll talk about it as I always do. Too long, so I'll let Dustin go first. But what did you think? How much did you get to play? What did you play it on, by the way?
So I'm playing it on PC, which I bought it on the Epic Game Store using creator code. Is it ACG
Oh,
Carrick?
ACG Karak. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. I used that creator code. Made sure to support my
Chinese
boy.
money.
That's right.
People are gonna be mad now. Anyway, continue.
Oh no, it's over. Yeah, we're done. So yeah, I was playing on PC mainly because I wanted to play it with PC VR.
Right.
And so I actually been meaning to experiment because right now I've used it on my Oculus Quest
Mhm.
using Link and also virtual desktop, which if anyone has a Quest and a
Use virtual
PC and
desktop.
doesn't have virtual desktop, it's a must buy. It's incredible. Have you used it?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I've since it originally started. I've been using virtual desktop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and here's the thing. Okay. For anyone who doesn't know about this, I have to rave about it for just a second.
Go for it.
So, virtual desktop, if you install it, so you buy it on the app on your Oculus store, but then you have to do the, it's not like a rooting, but like basically you
Side
have to
load,
do,
I think, is what they're
yeah, you
terming
have
it.
to
Yeah.
side load it as well in order to unlock the full feature set. But you're able to stream your PC VR titles to your Quest wirelessly. Now, if before I had tried it, if you said, "Hey Dustin, you can stream PC games to your Quest wirelessly and it's flawless," I would have been like, "Bullshit, not possible." You know, I'm the most sensitive to latency, and I
Mhm.
would have been like, "No way." And the first time I tried it, I was like, "Holy shit, this is unbelievable. This is like 1 to 1." And honestly, I couldn't even tell. Now, you do have to have a nice router. I think you need to have a 5 gigahertz
Right. You do.
router for
Yeah.
this to really work effectively. But so yeah, if you have a Quest and you have a PC, get rid of that cable. Check out remote desktop. So, but as far as squadrons, yeah, I've only played for probably maybe 2 hours
Mhm.
at best. So I'm still very kind of early on, but I here's where I'm conflicted, and what I wanted to ask you about is that currently I'm just using a DualShock 4 to play the game. And I'm like, this is fun, but I don't feel like I'm getting the right experience because I just something about the controls on the DualShock, it's not connecting. And
Mhm.
I'm like, man, I think I'd be having way more fun with a flight stick. Has that been the case for you?
Yeah, you would be wrong until yesterday, though. Because the flight state,
Oh,
yeah. So the patch fixed the dead zone, which, by the way, if you
I
play it
heard about
today,
that.
you'll probably notice an improvement on your controller as well. So
Really? Okay.
yeah, because what you're doing is you're dragging. And funny enough, I'm not saying I'm not a big fan. That came out wrong. But I don't watch Tested very much. Adam Savage's Tested because
Oh, right.
they're very against WMR, and it comes across in everything they talk about. And sometimes you're just like, dude, people have it. You should cover it. And they're like, we're going to tell you why this sucks. We're not going to cover their stuff. So I've stopped watching them for the most part. But I watched their Squadrons review, and they covered something quite well, which is that when you're playing Squadrons, it is a little bit like Freelancer, one of my favorite games of all time. But what you're doing is you're dragging that mouse, and you're actually not one for one. You're dragging a vector. And then when you drag the vector a certain point, the screen moves. Well, its point is too big. That's the only way to describe it. Like its dead zone is way too big, and on a joystick, it was almost worse because a joystick has so much play, which is what increases fidelity normally, but decreases
Hmm.
it when the dead zone's big. So you actually probably had a better experience playing the way you were playing than you would have ever had. You would probably be on here being like, dude, this thing controls like a broken dick. Like it's terrible.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and so I would check it. I'd be interested to see what you say next week if you like it with this patch, because the patch has improved it. And personally, yes, I would agree with you. If the control was normal, joystick's the way to go because it just feels it feels right when you're using like a HOTAS, even if it's a cheap
Right.
one in those kind of
Yeah.
games. But no, I agree with you. I think it does feel disconnected. Yeah, I felt the same way for sure.
Yeah. What was weird too is that in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't play inverted when it comes to first person shooters or anything non-flight related. And then when
Yeah, right. Neither do I.
I started playing it and I'm like, do I want flight controls? I feel like I should. And I was like flipping it around and I'm like, neither one of these is exactly feeling quite right.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's just because I didn't play very much, I wasn't able to like, get my brain to click with the controls properly. I decided to just stick with the flight controls because just not using flight controls feels like it would be wrong
Hmm.
to me overall. So yeah, overall though, I would say that playing the game in VR has been mostly really good. I did play it one time not in VR and I was like, yeah, this ain't it.
Yeah.
Like it just didn't seem like that was, to me, it feels like this game is very much a VR game first that
Yes.
they
Right.
that they made available also and the
A
standard
pancake
way.
version. Yeah.
Yes, just in order for, sales
Hmm.
reasons. So,
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think also when you're playing it, so if you play it pancake, dude, there's so many games out there that do it that like have more content. Like
mm,
X games, I know they're not the most loved, and some of them have been terrible, but this last one is not bad at all. And then you have the game that I like. Travis Beltree did it. Rebel Galaxy. Those space games. You have these games
mhm,
that Pancake have so much more than Squadrons, but in VR, then it's Star Wars VR, which is I think adds a whole another element. It's just why I liked
right.
Bridge Crew. Bridge Crew is probably my favorite VR game of all time, just because I'm like in Trek talking into the fucking machine and having it shoot
Yeah.
phasers at something. I'm just like, this is fucking awesome. But if it was anything else, I'd just be like, I'm not 100% sure this is all it's cracked up to be. So
I
uh,
think
go ahead, go ahead.
that's one of the magical things about VR to me is well, and I think that we're only going to be able to feel this way in the early, because I think we're still kind of in the early days for
Yeah,
sure.
right.
Is that something that is clearly not that good can still be really
Yep,
fun?
yep.
Like like I think of like Job Simulator or whatever, and it's like there's nothing about Job Simulator that makes it like an incredible gameplay experience, but it's just silly and stupid enough that it's like this is awesome.
Yeah,
So
that's
I'm
another
curious
game
of
like that.
how VR will evolve. And yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm already kind of started to change things that I liked at the beginning. When I first got a PlayStation VR, my first VR headset, stuff like in those early days is not going to do it for me anymore.
Yeah,
But
yeah, right. No, no, no. No, I don't think I'd
yeah,
be playing the older. I wouldn't be playing the older games and being like, man, this is fucking awesome. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But
I
at the
mean,
time, like well, no, what was the that Until Dawn game, Rush of Blood,
uh huh.
is terrible. But I feel like even if I put that on now, I would have just a tiny bit of like stupid fun.
Yeah, well, that's also VR's biggest negative is its biggest positive, which is the headset does make you feel immersive, which also can make you
Right.
fucking throw up. It can also look
Oh,
like
dude.
shit because I get
Yeah.
motion sickness really easy. But at the same time, I did that Walking Dead game recently, not the newest one, but the one about 3 months ago. It got an expansion. I played it, and I'm just like, this game. I rarely do like top 10, and I don't mean that in Maddie's way. I'm talking like top 10 kills in my game. I don't usually
Mm,
do those, but I did one for that game because it was so fucking brutally funny to like grab a zombie's head and headbutt another zombie, which is quite literally impossible to do in a normal game.
right.
Like that doesn't work. It doesn't
I
even.
need to play that.
Oh,
I heard
dude,
it was
and
great. Saints and Sinners, right?
yes, that game
Okay.
is legit good. Like when you go back
Dude.
to your bus, which is your base, and there's like, broken doll heads you found and you're collecting them. You're like, who's this homeless guy anyway? Like, who am I? It's creepy. But at the same time,
Yeah.
you go out on your little boat and you find a spot and trying to be quiet and open a drawer. And it's all handled very well. Like, very well. The stealth is handled very well. The combat's handled very well. There's AI, full voiced AI storytellers giving you quests.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's well. I don't know what it costs now, but when it came out, I was like, this is well worth buying. And it's got a lot of upgrades for weapons. So like, you get a normal shotgun, then it's firing flames, and you can do all these upgrades. So it's definitely worth it. With Squadrons, I just wanted to say real quick with Squadrons, the one thing I noticed was also it's probably because Dustin just said it's a VR first title. They fuck up pretty severely in Squadrons, which is they cut you until fifth level. I think it's fifth or sixth level. They require to play online only against it's dogfight basically. It's
Oh.
it's generic dogfights and that's it. And what's weird is people were doing, and I talked about this in my review. they were just turreting, which you could call it you could call it almost camping, but it wasn't in the same place ever. What they would do is, because missiles are so accurate and so deadly, people found out that if you rock your butt up in the ship against, let's say, a rock, you could just wait for other ships to come and treat the spaceship like a turret. So instead of flying forward, which was deadly because somebody get behind you, you would just bump your butt against something big, wait for anybody to come in your area, and just turret them and turn your shields on the strongest front. And that way, like, they're flying to the side, which you can't put your shields to the side. You can only front or back. They'd fire. By the time you turn around, you're already hurt, and then they fire a missile. And that went away with the fleet massive battle because you're constantly required to move. And that hurt them bad. Like, when I was playing, I finally got to the next part, and I unlocked these other missions. I was like, I will never, ever do the dogfighting ever again. Like, never. And to me, that was really stupid, locking out the better. And we see that in some games, man. I don't know how many games I've played where I'm like, oh, the cool mode. And they're like, yeah. And you're just like, I don't know if that's a tutorial or not. Because if you consider that a tutorial, just have me play against bots.
Right.
And then have a bot skirmish mode. But don't require me to play 5 levels of... And if you lose, by the way, in that game, you get like 100 experience points. So every time you lose, you're just like, oh no, it's going to take twice as long to get, the good part unlocked. So that was my pretty big negative from it. You played on the PC. Did you notice, I know there was a VSync issue, but I personally had insanely good performance on that, which I was really happy for. Were you getting...
So what's interesting is that, I mean, as far as VR, I didn't notice any problems as far as performance or anything like that. I saw your video about the high frame rate issue,
Yeah.
which is funny because it's the first game that I'm playing on my new 3080. So I was like, this is going to be sweet. I'm going to check it out on my OLED at 4K, 120 FPS. And then as I started to mess around, I'm like, something ain't right here. And then I eventually was like, yeah, fuck it. I'll just play in VR. And then I saw your video, then I was like, oh, it seems like this is clearly some kind of issue going on right now.
It's funny, you did the 3080. I did the new monitor. I thought my monitor was broken. I got a brand new monitor that morning.
Oh.
And I was like, I went to bed. I'm like, man, I'm going to wake up. I'm going to play some Star Wars. I put it on. I'm like, monitor's fucked. What's happened? Because it had G-Sync as well, which I'm not even G-Sync can fuck up a lot. So I'm like, I was like, oh, it must be G-Sync. And then I started looking at stuff. I'm like, man, something... like in my old monitor, the one I reviewed it on, is a Max 60 monitor, but I can test higher frame rates. So I was getting insanely good frame rates. I was like, hey, it's doing very well. And I noticed 1 or 2 stutters on another monitor, but it wasn't like all the time. So I was like, okay, it looks like we're good. But they fixed it, supposedly, or there's ways around it. But that's another thing where, like, dude, with PC, man, there's so many. We joke about consoles. Holy shit. With a console, at least you put it in and it usually...
Right.
Like, you have a 3080, you're like trying to play it, and if it doesn't hit those frame rates, you're like, oh, here we go. How many fucking hours am I going to spend?
Well, the funny thing about the 3080 right now is that, and I should be patient because I'm like, it's the bleeding edge as far as graphics, HDMI 2.1, where 4K 120 is crazy. But it's funny because I'm like, my TV is not playing super nice with the 3080. Like, it's having some
handshake
weird
issues kind of stuff.
Well, so initially I didn't have a cable that had the full bandwidth, so I got a new cable, which is good. So that then it was working more often, but there's still some things that it's like, if I'm doing 4K 120 with HDR, sometimes it just like shits the bed and will like show no input, but only on certain games, and it's very inconsistent. So apparently too, if anyone out there has a LG OLED, either a C9 or C10, there are known issues with the G-Sync compatibility right now that they are working on an update that will fix it. So that is probably part of the problem also. But again, it's one of those things that I don't want to, like, it's annoying that you spend, $700 on a graphics card and $2,000 on a TV, and then they don't really work that well. But it is the price that you pay when you are doing, you have the absolute latest thing. There's always
Well, it's a hot rod
problems.
mentality. It's like
Right.
if you have a hot rod on a racetrack, if you don't dial that shit in, it's going to be shit. But if you do, it's going to be amazing. And that's the
Right.
PC for you. I mean, and I'm not even saying consoles are fucking Ford Fiestas. Consoles are pretty fucking sweet now, especially next gen are going to be awesome.
Yeah.
But dude, if you get a PC dialed in and you're playing a game, like I was playing, especially back a while ago, but like a Halo Wars 2, there were a couple other games where the console version was just, and I'm normally totally accepting. And I was like, this is rough. This is rough.
Yeah.
I should never play the PC version first. Like, what am I doing? For reviews, I try to play the console first. And I mean, like, now, especially if you're pushing with a 3080, then you're also pushing TVs to pretty close to their limit anyway. 120 is pretty close to a TV's limit, not a monitor, but a TV. And then you have HDR, you have all that bandwidth, and then the fucking cables. HDMI has what's called a handshake issue, which means both have to be, one has to accept the input, one has to basically give it. If one's not strong enough, which is usually what HDMI has an issue with, then you get that thing where it's like, no signal, and you're like, no, there's a signal. I got it right. And then you get mad because you're like, no.
Right.
No. Well, I'm for sure there's a signal. And then you're mad at the TV and you're jamming it in the different. Yeah, I know where you're coming from. It can be.
Yeah.
I get really angry at those kind of things too, like overtly angry. But overall, would you say, are you going to return to Squadrons?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just like this past week, like we were, I was spending so much time getting the Discord set up, and
Yeah.
I'm also working on a bunch of other things for Colin. So it's just been like a really busy non-gaming week for me. But now it's the weekend. I'm definitely hopping back in for sure.
Yeah, I would
And
love for you to
I've
tell
been
me.
thinking about it all week.
I would love for you to tell me how that patch works too, because that's important to me. For me jumping back in, if that's because I want that fixed. It's weird that you had it on game. I guess I noticed it on joystick just because that was the biggest issue. But it is weird that like almost everybody I know noticed that there's something weird with the input. So I guess that's good too, because it just shows gamers. Like sometimes you get that gamer where you're like, dude, it has this, and they'll be like, I never had it. All right.
Right.
Whatever. But with this game, it feels like pretty much even the people who love it are like, something feels weird,
Specifically, I was thinking of flying ships in Battlefront 2. And I was like, I remember being a lot better at this than I am.
Right.
So I was like, maybe I just suck.
Right. Maybe age just creeped up that quick. Like in a weekend, you're like, fuck, man. I guess I'm terrible. Nah, yeah. I mean, and it's cool that it should never release that way. I would never make an excuse. But it's cool that at least they're looking at it and going, all right, yeah, it's definitely got an issue. Like, we need to fix that. I do always want to know, though, how the fuck does it get out? If it's got that, like, what I mean is where they're surprised. Sometimes there's a game decision where somebody makes a game and you're like, I don't like this. And they're like, well, fuck you. That's what we chose. And you're like, all right, I have respect for that. I'm like, all right, man, that's just, it doesn't work for me. But with this game, it's just like, how are you surprised? Like, where didn't one of your testers say, something seems, or maybe they're testing, maybe this is something where their testing facility needs better monitors too. I mean, it could be something as small as that, but who knows?
Yeah, those things do tend to slip by. I've always wondered. This is related, unrelated, but I don't know. I thought of this. I will leave the name and the studio out, but a very popular indie game I was previewing at PAX, and it was a side-scrolling platformer. They required a lot of precision. And I start the demo, and I'm like, this TV is not on game mode.
I think I know what you're talking.
And has really bad
input latency.
And I was like, how has no one noticed this? How has nobody? I was like, this is the absolute worst way for me to check out this game. Like, I can tell that it's good, but my footage is going to be shit because I'm playing like ass. And then, of course, the YouTube comments, if you're not immaculate, will eat you up. But I don't know. I just thought it was funny. But yeah, as far as Squadrons, it's I've always wondered how things like that slip through, but I don't know.
Hopefully, I mean, especially with it, and we can talk about it because I think this will impact Legion a little bit. But I do also think that as the competition grows with all of these titles, it's so easy now for us to pass something by where maybe in the past we'd be like, I'm gonna live through it. Like input
Right.
latency on some old games. By the way, I'm talking about you. What is it? Airborne, Medal of Honor Airborne. One of my favorite shooters of all time has an input latency. It is just a bag of wet dicks. I don't know how
Damn.
it ever. It's so fucking bad. It's so bad that it now when I turn left, I go like I get almost nauseous. And I played,
Yeah.
dude. That was my favorite game. I was like calling friends and going, "Oh my god, you have to come out of the fucking play this game," blah, blah, blah. And I never noticed that. And now, I think as you have all this competition, right, you slowly become acclimated to like the best parts of something else. Unfortunately, we also rate everything against the best. Everything's got to be Witcher 3, and it's like, no, it doesn't. But it's cool. It's like I said, once again, it's cool that we all sort of notice the same thing because regardless, that'll also cause a company to check that off next time and say, all right, next time we do this, that one thing we should check is this input latency here. And I think
Right.
I think that's very cool. I do want to talk about something that I forgot to tell Dustin about. So have we talked about because you mentioned latency? Have we talked about Xbox streaming yet? The cloud and our experiences.
We have touched on it. I think on one show a few weeks ago, you were like saying how it's magic.
Yeah. Have you
And
tried
it's
it yet?
so is this the in-home streaming or
Both.
the
It's the
okay.
console to your Android or the streaming from the cloud to your.
So I have not tried the X Cloud from their servers to your phone because I
Okay.
don't have an Android, so I'm not able to try that. But I could try. I think that you are able to do the in-home streaming with an iPhone, but I have not tried that yet. Only just because if I'm being honest, I don't really play almost any games. I have an Xbox One S and not the X,
Okay.
and honestly, I feel like playing games feels useless when I like compared to playing something either on PC or PS4 Pro.
Well,
No
and
offense to the Series S, but
right. No, and you have a
right.
PC, which there's a great deal of overlap. I will say though, there's magic when you're in bed, and I was playing Skyrim with all the mods,
Oh,
and on my
little
tab,
magic in bed with
little
Skyrim.
magic in bed. So I've got a shield, which I'm just checking this because this is an older one, and I haven't tried this, but I have an 11-inch tablet from Lenovo. And there was a 3D printer company that does 3D printing for your controllers and will allow you to attach a tablet to your controller. So
Oh yeah, I've seen those.
yeah,
Yeah.
so instead of buying one because they don't fit my tablet, which is huge, it was difficult. So I got this, and I love Switch, man. I love Skyrim on the Switch. It is beautiful. However, playing with all the mods in bed was fucking, dude. It was so weird. It was just like, I'll never go back to the past again. And I was just playing it like sitting there. And I was jumping around to different games, and it is so fucking cool to do. And I also did the console to telephone or console to phone streaming, which is lower latency because it's your console, right? It's not coming from. And I noticed that actually worked really well. I was doing ESO. So right now you can't stream. How does it work? You can't stream ESO because something about the way it runs on PC, it's not one of the ones that streams through the cloud. However, you can stream your Xbox to your phone. So I was streaming the ESO from my console to my phone and playing that and just being like, dude, we have arrived.
Yeah.
And it's free. Like doubly
Right.
arrived, It's just so good. It was so good. I forgot you hadn't got a chance.
It's funny that you brought that up though, because last week we didn't have a show, so I didn't mention I did a episode of Side Quest on Colin's channel that was talking about PlayStation Now
Mhm.
and how it's interesting because Sony was one of the first, we'll say, major players in the space with PlayStation Now years ago.
They bought Genki and a lot of people from OnLive. Too,
Right,
the
yeah.
streaming service.
And so the problem is though, is that while they were ahead of the game, they are now, as far as streaming quality, probably the
Dead last.
worst.
Yeah.
Because dude, I was checking out some games on PlayStation Now. It is so bad. It doesn't matter if you're hardwired on PS4 Pro, it doesn't matter if you're on PC. Dude, the latency, the compression, it is a terrible, terrible experience. The only reason to have PlayStation Now is for the download games, and that like the streaming is just not good.
Yeah, it you're right, because I had forgot they had bought Genki, which was David something. I can't remember his name. He made Messiah. What the fuck is his name? Anyways, a programmer. He created Genki, which is one of the streaming services, and then On Live, which was a big one. Both of those sort of went down, and Sony bought Genki's technology, and then I think they hired Xbox and Sony split it almost 50-50, I think, for total hires, because one of my friends works with them. And they were ahead, and I thought that that's what PS Now was going to be. Like, I thought it was just going to be their sort of inroad to Windows, because right now Windows is Microsoft. So to me, it made sense.
Right.
It was like, we'll have our inroad be, this streaming service. Dude, I sometimes, I don't want to attribute. They're a conglomerate. They're huge. They're not one person's making decisions. But sometimes I feel like Sony is just egotistical and is like, we will not work with them. And so therefore we're going to, you know what I mean? It's almost like, it's I'm sure it's not this, but at times it feels that way. And you look at PS Now, and dude, I have really good internet, and their service does suck donkey balls. And you're just sitting there going like, how are you guys, how is it possible that this is your service offering? And you see it with Nintendo, obviously, with shit chat too. Nintendo's like, what's chat? Use your cell phone. And you're like, what? Like, so it's not unheard of, but it does hurt them, especially in the future when we start looking at this. And I got to say, man, Microsoft, maybe Apple's in a way, refusing. And now, as of yesterday, I guess Microsoft sent out a letter to all their employees stating, we'll be on the Apple Store. We're just going to go through a browser plugin. So that'll alleviate that issue. And I think that Sony, there's something missing on that side. Because the same thing happened with Jack Tretton having to apologize about the hack. Because Jack Tretton, after he left Sony, was like, they told me no, you are not allowed to apologize. And he said, well, fuck you. And he went out there and apologized. And he said, yes, my job was on the line. And I didn't know if I was going to be in trouble. But he's like, no one apologized. They just pretended like it was their online thing. They don't get it. There's something about them that's old school, and they don't get it. And I feel like you and I've talked about this. I feel like their PR is the same way. Like, there's some of their stuff is genuinely old school, too cool for school. I'm the popular chick, kind of situation. Too bad.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's so hard to say right now with the PS5, just because there are definitely shades of pre PS3 launch Sony going on. I don't know I don't think it's as bad.
I don't either.
But there's definitely a feeling of that.
Yeah. And this is what's going to be cool is here we're talking, what day is this? This is the 9th, right? And they come out November. What's their 9th, right? Isn't it exact? I think it's exactly 1 month. I could be wrong. 9th sounds
12th.
12th. Okay. So we've got a little bit over a month to go. So we'll be able to rightly remember if our guesses on this. But my personal opinion is that Sony, knowing that they're known for console games and exclusivity, which I think it would be dumb to pretend that they're not, that they're definitely known for that. Apparently, I feel that some of their stuff's been moved around enough that not lack of confidence, but the game plan has had to be adjusted in a way that is probably doesn't speak to their strengths, is all. It doesn't mean it's got an issue. It just means it's not speaking to their strengths, and they have to figure out a way around it. And right now they haven't. And that's why a lot of people are like, what's happening? Like, what is even going on? Oh, we won't do pre-orders a day prior. The PR guy literally said it less than a week prior to that, and they do the PR, or they do the pre-orders with like zero notice. Even though that was the stores, they had planned the next day, which I think a lot of people weren't prepared for. So yeah, it's going to be a gnarly time frame. But anyway, xCloud, if you guys get a chance, also in your guys' Discord, people are asking me how I connect my consoles. I don't know about you, Dustin, but right now I'm using wired and a thing called a power line adapter, if anybody wants to know what that is. So power line adapter takes your internet and puts it through your power lines, as long as they're on the same breaker. it adds about 1 millisecond, so completely non, traceable latency, and my speed is maxed with that. I would say with the Xbox, you would definitely want to do wired or power line adapters. The Xbox network connector sucks for wireless. How do you connect your consoles?
So this house that I'm in, I bought from my parents,
Oh,
and we've
oh,
been here since 2002. And
mhm.
I remember being like, "Dad, I would love it if we could hardwire my consoles in the living room." And
Sweet.
so my dad's a fucking G. And in my basement, you can see that he ran it like he put the thing in the wall that you could
Uh-huh.
just plug in, and then it goes into the basement underneath and then pops up where the TV is.
That's sweet.
So
That's sweet.
yeah,
So yours
my
is all
dad,
hardwired right now.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I'm hardwired either downstairs where my, consoles are, and he also helped me hardwire this room, which is like my studio slash office area. So
Yeah,
pretty nice.
yeah, it's awesome. Just yeah, heads up to anybody who was wondering that because I saw some people asking. Let's see. Next thing, I want to say this real quick. I don't think Dustin and I really have anything to add, but we saw this pop up. Outer World available Steam October 23rd. So if you're one of those people who hates stores like Epic, Steam looks like October 23rd. Outer Worlds. Now I can't remember. Dustin, did you play this?
I never finished it, and you and Maddie, yeah, you chastised me for that. So I
Gotcha.
might
And
need to go back.
dude, so are you as big a Bethesda fan as Maddie? No, no.
I think at one point I was.
At one point.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't know. Fallout 4, I put a lot of time in that game, which was weird. I like even when I originally was playing it was on PS4. I like got the platinum and everything, and
Hmm.
I don't know. I think I feel like I've that formula. I'm kind of I don't want to say I'm over, but I'm just not super interested in that whole Bethesda, portrait style going around talking to people, looting everything.
Right. Okay.
But I liked Worlds what I played of it. I think I just got distracted with something else at the time. So,
Because I don't. It could be me. I still feel like, and I saw this in a new, somebody was saying, oh, Microsoft owns all the Western development companies, which I don't necessarily believe that, but whatever. It does feel a certain way, and it is weird when I was playing Outer Worlds, like it really is Fallout. I mean, it really is Skyrim and Fallout, except in their
right.
own world and all that stuff. And I personally, man, when playing that game and the slightly shorter time frame, because Skyrim, the Skyrim and Fallout, all the Fallouts and all the Morrowind slash Oblivions, all those, their big claim to fame is this huge sandbox, right? Like, they're massive and you can fucking, sometimes you'll see their hours that they post and you're like, seriously, dude,
Yeah.
you could have cured cancer really easily that amount of time, right? It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But dude, I hope you get a chance because there's something to be said, man. Even if it's not as good, there's something to be said about Outer Worlds being able to finish that in like 30 or 40 hours, and that
Right.
feeling of like I played same kind of game, and it felt there was still experience, there was still random dungeon, not random, but there's still a side dungeon I don't need to do, but I was able to do it. There's still the decision making, but at the same time not having that gulf of time in front of you. Because when you turn on Fallout, right, and like if you hit new, you can almost hear the tombstone slab behind you when you hit like new game because
Oh, yeah.
you're like that's an investment, right? Like
Right.
it's so crazy. Yeah, did you feel the same way towards Witcher? Were you a, I mean, like you a huge Witcher fan?
I don't know. Do I want to get crucified today? That's the
You
question.
won't be from me. I like I like crucifixion.
I
Is what
like crucifixion.
I
Hell yeah.
really like that. No, I was gonna say I liked Witcher 3, but I absolutely am nowhere near that,
Yeah.
level.
I think Witcher 3, incredible world, incredible wealth of stories and things to do, and quality side quests.
Uh huh.
The combat just did not click for me. Like, it's weird because I was like, felt like I was invested in the world, but I didn't enjoy the actual gameplay that much. Not that it was terrible. I'm not, don't nobody leave a comment says
Yeah,
Dustin said
yeah.
that
You
Witcher 3 has terrible
have to leave a
combat. I don't think
warning
it's
now.
terrible.
Right.
Yeah. I just think that I don't know. Something about it just wasn't like, wow, this is incredible. It was just like, this is cool. What's funny is about Witcher 3 is that that's the game that I feel like I've never truly stopped playing, because every few months I will go in and do a couple story missions and then I'll just forget about it. And so like now I'm there's the island Skellige.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing missions on Skellige. So I'm like pretty decently into the game. Eventually I need to powerhouse it and beat it before Cyberpunk, just to be, if anyone's like, "Oh, well, you never finished Witcher," then I
It'd be
can,
awesome if
you know.
in like 2 or 3 years you're like still doing 2 or 3 missions every three.
Right.
What's
Yeah.
funny is you would probably still be doing so as well because of how big that game is. But no, I was
Right.
just asking because they do have a different feel. But like especially with Witcher 3, I know a lot of people who absolutely loved it, and I know Maddie and I've talked about this a ton. That there's just such a different feel between that and like a Fallout or what. Like there's something so weird about the differences in some of these games. Like when somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to make a third person this or whatever," you're like, "Okay, I pretty much got it." But then if they said it's CD Projekt Red, it would be a completely different thought process than if somebody said Obsidian. Like it's weird
Right.
how they get so locked into their very particular feels. They've got certain feels, which is also interesting. You mentioned Cyberpunk because I think I pissed off my entire Discord by saying at times Cyberpunk, when you're in first person, feels like an Obsidian game. And people were so mad, and I'm like, no, go look. Go look at Fallout, right? Or go look at Outer Worlds and run around in Outer Worlds and tell me at times, if you're in first person mode, that Cyberpunk at times doesn't like. There's a lot there. It's not Witcher. Not even close to feeling like Witcher. It's feeling much more like which I think should please Bethesda fans, but I don't know if Bethesda fans will be okay with that because I think Bethesda fans only like Bethesda games. I don't know. People in chat can tell me if I'm wrong on that, but a lot of times I feel like every time I mention like another game, they're like, "Well, it's not a Bethesda." Have you ever played any of the? I am supposed. By the way, people listening, I'm supposed to move on to. I have a topic here. I wanted to talk about Baldur's Gate 3 and Legion, which it has some news and some other stuff, but I have to ask him some questions.
I'm ready.
So you played some of Outer Worlds, you've played some of Witcher 3. Do you plan on beating Cyberpunk?
I am planning on it unless I'm not going to force myself to play it if I hate it.
But it could follow the same pattern.
Yeah, it could. Yeah.
So
it's certainly possible.
Have you played the B tier games of these kind of, so like an Elix or a Gothic or a Risen or a?
I've not played any of these.
You have not played any. Okay, interesting. Did you do Vampire?
No, but I really want to now that it's on PlayStation Plus.
Yeah. Okay. You should.
Yeah, because I've always heard that that's pretty good.
Yeah, the reason why I was bringing up like a Elix or whatever is because there's almost a level of quality to like a Cyberpunk where you see it and you're like, yeah, that's like AAA. Or Microsoft calling everything 4A, which, by the way, anybody listening,
quadruple A.
That's fucking not real.
Yeah,
that's not real. That's But yeah, you see these, and even to me, Skyrim. I don't know about you, but I remember when I was first playing Skyrim, I was like, yeah, this looks good, but I wasn't. There's something about Skyrim's and Bethesda's engine that never makes me think AAA. I don't know why. I think because it's sort of cumbersome. Rocks are sort of blocky. Blah blah blah. But Elix, Risen, Gothic, all of those are like one lower B tier, but they're some of my favorite games of all time. So you haven't played? Did you do Two Worlds?
Mm-mm.
Oh wow. Okay. Interesting. So Piranha Bytes games. What about Greedfall?
That's another one that I want to play.
Interesting. Okay. So the low. So the tier you've played then is Bethesda games. You haven't like gone into the, like sort of crunchier type titles like this. Interesting.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense off the bat, but
Are
I
you a
don't
fan
know.
of Final Fantasy, the Final Fantasy games more than? Okay, I see.
Yeah,
That makes
probably
sense.
more on the Japanese side
That
for
makes sense.
sure. I mean, I'm hit and miss with some of the more modern Final Fantasy games, but like 15, I don't know. Can you even really compare Final Fantasy 15 to a game like The Witcher or
No, and that's I'm
Fallout?
glad I asked that because now I get where you're coming. Because I was like, so he just must not play a bunch. But then, of course, yeah, Final Fantasy, and then all of a sudden you have that entire stream of consciousness side. So no, they don't. No, there's no.
Yeah,
I mean, they're their own. Which I guess I get now why people say like Microsoft owns a good deal of the Western style. Um,
right.
I get, yeah. I mean, I guess in a way they do. Hey, speaking of Square, we can jump onto a topic instead of
Sure, let's
just
do it.
uh Avengers dropped to less than 1,000 people. This
Whew.
is news. Dropped to less than 1,000 people in their server population, and people are stating that it's causing issues with activity. So like
Right.
multiplayer games. Have you jumped into this?
No, and I don't plan to, especially now.
Right.
Because here's what I've gathered about this game. I have many friends that purchased it and played it. And every time I talked to them, they said, "This game is not very good, but I'm having fun." And I
Yeah.
said, "Great. That's the whole point of playing games is having fun. And sometimes a game doesn't have to be good for it to be fun.
Yeah.
That's just it helps." But and the vibe I got, I was like, "Man, this feels like a game that is a you play it in the moment, and if you're not there during the moment, then that's it.
Yeah.
It's done." And it seems like, based on this information, that may be very true because, especially on, I mean, it makes sense that that this is happening first on PC
Mm-hmm.
and not on console, but I didn't think it would be this soon. I mean, that's pretty bad. Which I know there were problems with the beta as
Yeah.
far as PC performance that
Yeah.
eventually got ironed out
It
in the
did.
actual release. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where usually when all my friends are playing a game, I get, I have a fear of missing out and I'll cave even if it's not something I'm super interested in. I don't know. This one I had a bad feeling about and I didn't have like an imperative to cover the game. So I just sat it out and seems like that was the right thing to do.
That works perfect for me. If you got this far, hashtag FOMO. FOM.
Hashtag
Yeah,
FOMO.
FOMO, feeling of missing out or fear of missing out. One of my friends was
Right.
like, "Why are you calling it feeling of missing out?" And I'm like, "Cause I never feel fear, but it's just because I was fucking up the term." Um, so it's weird. And I would like to know what people think if other people listening are, especially with Avengers, are having this. So what's weird is Avengers canceled. I don't know if you ever played the Diablo one, but they had Omega, which Maddie and
Oh,
I,
right. Yeah.
dude, like that's our like when we talk about like games that we gelled over originally when we started to know each other. It was like how this game is fucking awesome, like a Diablo X-Men or sorry Diablo Marvel, and it had more players when they canceled it per platform than this has.
Damn.
That to
I
me
didn't
is
know
a
that.
sheer devastating number. Devastating. Like that's to me is like how is this where it is right now? And what's weird is it is fun at times, and a game can be fun and not good, and a game can be fun and good and can be really good and still not be fun, depending on how you term fun. But I think with Avengers, dude, lower than 1,000 not being streamed. I think one of the things it shows about Avengers too is that like some games have that weird cloying personality where they'll stick with you, like a Path of Exile, where somebody's like, "Dude, I ground another 20 levels in Path of Exile," and you're like, "What are you fucking doing? It's the same three bad guys, but there's something to it that they can do that grindiness." And Avengers does not have it, man. It does not
Right.
have it. And one of the things is probably the tech tree. Even just playing it for review in the first day, I had already unlocked the second tech tree and got points in that and the third. Like you're already like, wait, how much is there here to unlock? That kind of stuff. And it's sort of sad because, dude, I'm sort of into superheroes lately. I was sort of hoping this. I was a big fan of Ultimate Alliance 3. It wasn't the greatest game in the world. I was just like, I dig it. It was a full, complete
Sure.
experience with DLC. And now we have this, and they haven't even seen their first, like, update. Like we haven't seen a single update yet for Avengers, as in like new stuff, and I don't know if we'll be hearing about it. Which
Right.
to me, then that saddles you with like, is it Square and Marvel will have no issue coming back, or is it like where suddenly we have a dearth? I don't know if you've lived through this, but a couple times, like if IP doesn't do well, you have a 5-year span where like the companies don't trust each other, I guess, and you don't get any games in that sphere, and I'm a little nervous for that because I like I'm a big fan of, depending on if they're done well, I'm a big fan of superhero games. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's interesting. Just I think that part of my reason that I'm not super interested in this game is that I feel burnt out on superheroes.
Okay,
And I
gotcha.
think that that's on the movie side because it's
Right.
like, we've had the whole last 10 years of Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, and they've been pretty good. And then I actually, when I saw Endgame, I'm like, okay, this is it for me. Like, this is gonna be, the end of the whole 10-year saga. Anything after this, will it really be quite as good?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe it will be, but so anyway, yeah, I was kind of just feeling like just burn out. But
Yeah, that actually makes sense because I burned out earlier than you because I just now recently saw Endgame. Like,
oh yeah,
I froze, by the way. So,
yeah,
can you write this down, the time for you, just in case? So if Maddie chooses to remove this from the video, he can do so.
sure.
So anybody listening, if Maddie leaves this in, we're having an issue with Discord, so occasionally, and I'm already unfroze. Look at that. Woo! The magic of Discord. I froze for a second,
There you
though.
go.
Maddie likes to delete that stuff. He likes to make us all look beautiful and perfect.
Oh,
With Avengers, I guess I get what you're saying. I'm not a big fan of Marvel big stuff at all. I do like Batman, but more the origin stories or the lower magic tier, the lower power tier stuff. Like, I I I don't like super powered bad guys or good guys. I sort of like the street level, the really low level guys. So I'm enjoying comics in that area. But I think with this one, it definitely does feel like they tried to do the movies, and then also you're like, dude, they just fought the fucking Infinity Gauntlet. Now they're fighting this punk. You're just like, he's not
yeah,
even a scary bad guy. You're like, seriously?
right.
Like, these guys,
Yeah.
there's no challenge here. And then also, I don't know about you, but I don't think they handled the weird shit where it's like, why am I teaching Thor how to swing his hammer? I don't understand. There's no fiction that makes any sense where I'm teaching these guys who are heroes how to use their shit. And I know that a lot of people will be like, dude, they have to do that. They probably do, but I do think that they're, especially with skills and stuff, I found myself looking at the skills, and I don't know about you, I have to love the skills.
Right.
Like, because you buy it.
It's an essential part.
It's an essential part. Yeah, it's like, I want to see the new big hotness. And I don't think there's a single move, by the way, on any character that we haven't seen in a book. Well, mostly in the movies. We haven't seen in the movies. Like the slap from Hulk. You're like, that's great and everything. But you got to figure something else out. Because otherwise it's just retreading the same. So, yeah, 1,000 people. So if anybody out there is playing this, I would play it ASAP because I don't know what they're, like, how long is Square going to support it? We've only got 1,000 people playing it. That's another thing with games as a service.
I wonder if there's what their contract is with Marvel. I mean,
Oh. You mean like almost like a performance contract?
you gotta wonder. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
you do.
yeah,
I have no
it's
issue
not
with
good.
Square overall. I know a lot of people are big Final Fantasy fans, stuff like that. I think Square handles stuff fairly well. But with this game, I just think it was handled so poorly. To be like, hey, here's some X-Men, but you can't dress them up is the weirdest fuck. And they tried to explain it away, and I know that's Marvel. People have said that's Marvel, but the idea that I can't customize my character is so fucking weird. Like, it just feels so weird to be all right, man, I'm putting on a different suit, and that's it. You can't, like, you get these gauntlets, and you can see them, by the way, when you're upgrading. They're on the character. So you're like, oh, that's cool. And then when you, like, drop out of the close-up,
Wow,
you just can't see it
I
anymore.
didn't know that.
Yeah, they're the only customizable are the skins. So like a costume. So if you get a new breastplate that looks awesome, you can't wear it. And they were like, no. You you can, what did they say? Something like, you can't design as well as our artists, so we don't want to give you the, like, authority to make your guy look the way you want. And
That is the stupidest response.
you would not believe, I've had fans so mad at me. They're like, dude, they know it is much better that we have no control over customizable. They know what to do. And I'm like, you don't understand. They could still do that. You could still put it. They're like, I've seen a guy with red pants and a fucking blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, so you've seen Superman? Look at Superman. When you get a chance, look at Superman. It's one of the worst designs I've ever seen. It's like an American flag flying around. Right? Look at the color on that. It's fucking horrendous.
I've never understood the appeal of Superman visually or
he's
overall.
pretty dumb looking visually.
It
was America, though, obviously, right? Like,
right.
if that had been based in, like, Russia, it would have been red and yellow, you know?
It's what is it? Truth, justice, and the American way?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That's Superman's thing.
It's Superman's thing. But, yeah, so, and it's also why I think Injustice works so well with their Spider-Man. Originally, one of the suits was white, which had never been done. And so they made Insomniac Spider-Man look a different way. And so you caught on to it. But with this game, none of that happens. You're always like, oh, I'm 1950s Thor. Which, by the way, is terrible. If you're out there listening, don't get that one. Let's talk about Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, let's do that.
So, this is, I know Maddie likes to read the various different, little bits off the news. I'm not as good as Maddie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Twitter. This is from Ghost of Tsushima's Sucker Punch's actual Twitter. They say, Ghost of Tsushima will be playable on PS5 on day one. There's 2 bits of data. Via backwards compatibility, you'll be able to transfer your save. So I want to make sure that's clear because somebody was asking me in chat just now. Is it going to be updated? At this point, it just looks like it's backwards compat. However, the new patch that they're releasing the end of this month adds 4-player co-op with some missions. So my question is, Dustin, do you know if it's like some missions are 4, some are 2?
That is correct to my understanding.
Okay.
Is that there are different missions suited for different amounts of players.
So I don't know about you. What do you think? Are you going to return?
Oh yeah, okay. I am really excited for this on multiple levels, and it's weird because I think the thing that I might be excited about the most is just how visually different this update is. They're going full on. I mean, it's called Ghost of Tsushima Legends, so it's right in the title. But I love this fantasy element to it. And honestly, I'm just really curious to see how they translate this purely single player game into having multiplayer. And not only that, they're going even a step further, that they're having, well, at least they're calling it a raid in the game.
I saw that.
So all of this, I mean, it sounds at the very least interesting to check out. And so for that alone, I will definitely, and I mean, why not? If you already own the game, it's just more value for your purchase.
And did you see that you can do dogs and you can pet dogs and you can have them as pets?
Yeah, I
saw that this morning.
Yeah, it's like ghost dogs.
Yeah, so I didn't know anything about that, but I saw it this morning. And I can find the exact date. Because I got a PR email about this. And this is one of the games that, from Sony in particular, I personally feel is like branches off from the typical third person they always do. So like, to me, this is probably my favorite. I would say, well, it's not game of the year. It could be game of the year for a lot of people because it released in this year, and I know a lot of people forget that. But it's just, there's something so dynamic about it. So it's free update 1.1. This is launching October 16th, so next Friday during our podcast. So it says Ghost of Tsushima Legends features 2-player story missions and 4-player survival missions, as well as a raid that we will release in the weeks following. Okay.
Oh.
That's interesting.
Okay.
I was not aware of that. So there is 4-player survival missions right away, but the raid will be later. It says you'll be able to pick one of 4 classes. Each one has their own unique advantages. When you start Ghost of Tsushima Legends, after a short tutorial, you'll choose which class you want to unlock first. As you rank up, you'll unlock all of the remaining classes. Okay, that's cool. In addition to each starting with their own unique ability, each class can unlock an alternate ability as you progress, as well as earning class-specific charms and ranged weapons. While playing with friends, you can mix and match classes however you like, whether it's a party of 4 all playing the same class, everyone playing a different class, or with single-player fans, and about the addition of N+, if you've already beaten Ghost of Tsushima, you'll find the option to re-embark on Jin's journey. You'll start with the N+ from the release to the open world shortly after Jin's initial confrontation. Okay, so you'll jump in and not have to do the tutorial. Interesting. You'll keep all the techniques, gear, and vanity items obtained in a previous playthrough, and difficulty will be increased. Dude, that game is so fucking...
What excites me about what you're reading right now is that it does not sound like some kind of tacked on multiplayer.
At all. Yeah, at all.
This is a full feature. I mean, this sounds...
like DLC, mini DLC, maybe.
Yeah, this sounds like something that they could charge for. Yeah. Like, justifiably charge for. I mean, I don't want to encourage that.
No. But... And they said it was free, so we're good.
Right. Yeah, so... I'm excited. I'm not really sure what to expect fully when it comes to the moment to moment playing it, but
you remember?
Yeah, I think it's...
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, and I don't think we talked about the you had mentioned the PS5 thing, right?
Yeah, I just mentioned that it states that it'll be backwards compatible, but it doesn't look like it'll be like increased.
Something they said, let me verify this. Something they said was they're going to basically offer an unlocked frame rate. Okay, well, here we go. PS5 owners playing with Game Boost will see an extra option to allow frame rates up to 60 FPS. And while loading speeds on the PS4 are already great, just wait until you see them on PS5. So that is exciting, to me at least, that as far, we just are starting to learn about Game Boost, which is sort of basically what we're seeing already with the Series X with the people that have them. That if a game has an unlocked frame rate on PS4, the PS5 should be able to just crank that up. So
what interested me, made me a little nervous, I forgot, I had seen that, was that they said up to 60.
Yeah.
And
I
mean, that could be them being safe, but I'm surprised they didn't say if it was going to hit 90. I'm not saying it's going to, but if it was possible to hit 120, they'd do what Microsoft said, which is 120, because Microsoft loves to tout 120. It's on the box, by the way. I don't know if anybody knows. It's on the Xbox box, 120. So they're touting that. I would have hoped... I mean, I don't think it'll go below 60, because even the performance mode wasn't like it was going up and down. It was at 4... I remember... Well, no, it didn't raise up in that game much, did it? It only raised like 4 or 5 frames. So, maybe there's just a lot going on, because they don't even talk about resolution either. They're not bumping anything. And Game Boost, we know, is pretty much just like the basic faster CPU kind of thing, where it's like we're not touching it, we're just faster. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, it'd be awesome if it's locked 60 and they just didn't want to say, or not locked 60, but above 60. I don't know about you. Also, I thought they did a good job on that game. Cinematically, I wasn't bothered that it was at 30. I was just like, whatever,
Right.
It played. But
I will always prefer a game at 60, of course.
Yeah.
But some companies are able to nail it, make a 30 FPS feel good, and that's what matters the most.
Yeah.
Is over in the end, how does it feel to play? And it was a good 30 FPS game. Unlike a game like Bloodborne, which is also technically 30 FPS, but has really terrible frame pacing issues. And I know that on Digital Foundry, they also talk about how 30 FPS can feel better based on motion blur. Like that's a thing that they did in Spider-Man. So yeah, there are ways to do it right.
There's another way of, if you interplay, if you take the polling rate and you crank it, you can have a polling rate for input and draw your frame at a different time too. So you can have like the input of the frame drawn later, and you can end up feeling much more impressive when it comes to motion input, which was Forza Horizon did that. Forza Horizon was running at 30, and I think its polling was 120. It might have even been higher. But what it does is it's taking all the updates for physics, and it's ready. And then once the game is ready to draw, it takes all of that into account on the frame. And what happens is it feels hyper responsive, even though it's 30, because it's actually updating wherever you are and then drawing the frame right then. And I've watched the digital, or not Digital Foundry, the GDC discussion of Spider-Man. And Spider-Man also, I have a picture of this, which is pretty cool. It shows you every single thing done in a single frame of Spider-Man. All their buffer, every check that they do, how they handle cache misses. And it's pretty crazy how just a little thing, moving something a little bit in the frame and a little bit back, can suddenly make it magically feel better. And like you said, frame pacing. People will be like, well, it's 30 frames per second. It feels juddery. And it's like, exactly. Because one's drawn at the first point of 1 millisecond. The other's drawn at the very end of the next point. And so there is a bigger gap. It's just, your 60 to you seems like the end point, and it's not. I think with Ghost, man, they did a good job with the motion blur. They did a good job with cinematically. God damn that game. It'll be in my game of the year list. That's for sure. I mean,
yeah, me too.
It
for sure.
It feels
I
like
can
nothing.
say it won't be my game of the year already because I already have something else in
Oh,
mind.
do you?
Yeah,
Hades.
but no.
Oh, okay.
Persona 5 Royal.
Oh,
this
Royale.
Year. Yeah. Hades will also be part of the conversation because every time I play that game, I'm like, damn, this game is fun.
I don't know
That is
anybody
just
who
a
doesn't
fun
like
game.
it. I literally
It's
don't know anybody.
It's so good. But yeah.
With Ghost, adding new weapons, new charms also, like you said, I think that'll add some longevity to the multiplayer, which could get boring pretty quick. I personally hope it doesn't hold you to particular spots on your missions. What I mean is, if the mission is at the top, even though the missions are specifically for 2 or 4 people, I hope that they're all over the map, and that if you go the other way, it doesn't say, you've exited the map, or, you're too, you know what I mean? Like, I hope there's no technical limitations. We had that with, was it Crackdown 3? There was a game that came out recently that everybody was really happy about, and then people started going too far away from each other. And we're stunned to see it be like, you're too far away, and people be like, what the fuck? Like, are you kidding me?
Right.
It's because at that, I really think if you're going to throw 2 people in a game, you need to prepare for them to go opposite. Like,
right.
That's just.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. I feel like I did hear about that, though.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure it was a big deal. Like, when it came up, it was one of those things where people were like, oh, well, that's, it's great and everything, but that's a huge deal to be able to, explore the way you want. And I think we've seen even other companies say, hey, you can go look at Wasteland 3. You can jump in and do completely different quests, in each other. That game is mind-boggling how big that thing is. Did you play? Yeah, you played that.
I played like a little bit, and then I decided I was like, not right now.
It's a lot.
Something about it. Yeah, I was like, I just don't know if I want to commit to this right now. So,
you know what? Because I want to talk about Legion and Second Extinction for a second, because I don't think I've ever talked to you about Second Extinction. But real quick, is there anything for news-wise that we want to cover for the PS5 and the Xbox? The teardowns happened.
Yeah, I mean, the teardowns. We saw the Xbox Series X teardown a few months ago. I think Austin Evans was the first one on YouTube. He got invited out, him and Digital Foundry.
Right.
Yeah. So, as far as the PS5 teardown, the only thing that I found interesting was the confirmation of the fact that a few months ago in Bloomberg, they had said that they were having trouble keeping the production cost of the PS5 down, and part of it was a bespoke cooler. And because normally they just throw in like a heatsink that costs a few dollars.
Yeah.
And we saw the heatsink on this thing, and it's huge.
And custom.
Huge custom. They got a giant fan, and I was surprised to see Sony put liquid metal as far as the instead of thermal paste, which I don't know a ton about liquid metal other than what I've seen on YouTube, other than it's works really well and that it's very hard to apply properly.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some special sauce in their manufacturing to do that.
You know what? Not to put my tinfoil hat on, but gonna. Every single thing that they do makes me feel like that thing has heating. Like, they're the ones with the weird ass cooler, a massive console, You have to take it apart to put new NVMe in it, which is nuts. I was completely surprised to see that to add NVMe, you have to take it apart, which to me is like, I don't know how many people are going to want to do that versus just plugging it in.
Well,
Like
that's pretty
that
much
was
the same as PS4 Pro. You got to rip the top off.
Yeah, but you don't rip the top off to put added stuff. You plug it in with a USB on the PS4. So
I was thinking about as far as swapping out the hard drive.
No, this doesn't allow you. You can't swap out the hard drive on the PS5.
Right. You can only add.
You can only add. And to add, you either use your USB or you take it apart to put new NVMe in there. Otherwise, your NVMe is limited to the USB 3.1 speed, which Xbox went away and said, we're going to allow you to plug it in and it's full speed. So their design is weird. And then also they have a Cyclone cooler, which I got to tell you, I don't know anybody who thinks that's a good idea yet. Cyclone coolers, which are the circular ones that you saw that look a little bit like a vacuum almost, like a Dyson vacuum. One of the problems is they have a tendency to pull their own dust back in. And then you see that they're like, oh, well, we have dust suck holes in the side of the PS5. To me, personally, just me, it feels like a bunch of their choices are either, one, to mitigate the PS4's issues, which I think we can all agree for sure they're doing, which is the heating your room up issue and sounding like a fucking, explosive. But just other stuff, I don't know, man. Something about their design, especially because Sony had a big PS3. We can admit that. That thing was a George Foreman grill. But this thing is abnormal. Like, I remember I was showing it to a PC maker who was like, the fuck? Like, that thing is, what? That thing is, it is the Eye of Sauron. It's huge. What? And most people I talk to are like, oh, that indicates some issue. And what I think their issue is most likely has nothing to do with the CPU, which I think Liquid Metal's cool. I think their issue is you can't do a bunch of work on a particular part of your system and then and ignore physics. One of their problems is the PCIe 4 memory and PCIe memory as a whole, NVMe, runs incredibly hot. And I personally believe that their extra speed that they're shooting for in all these ways most likely has a particular thermal amount that is just much higher than we're seeing or we have seen. And so all of these other things we see are to mitigate that one thing, which isn't necessarily bad, but it does explain all of the other stuff. They have some weird ass design. I mean, the first time you see it, you're like, wow. But then when you see it next to an Xbox X and you're like, wait, what? And then when they took it apart, 80% of it is cooler.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the honest truth, right? That heatsink is a monster.
It's a big boy. Yeah. Well,
which is fine.
Wasn't it? So you have a more technical minded than me, but I'll try to see if this makes sense to you. In Mark Cerny's, the Power Hour, where he described the all the different aspects, they were talking about the CPU and the way that it can constantly boost clock.
Yeah, it's variable. It's variable.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and wouldn't that make it necessary to have an extreme, well, not an extreme, but a more extreme cooling solution, since it could potentially be at that high boost clock, constantly, right?
It could, but I think the big thing is actually even past that. When you look at even people who know GPUs are like, their GPU clock is ridiculous. It's insane. I think it's the highest GPU clock there is. And I think the big worry is that, remember that, so when you cut one of these out of a wafer, you always have a particular number of CUs, computational units, that will fail. So, for example, Microsoft has 52 in theirs, I think, CU units. So a good number more than PlayStation. But they also have more on the wafer. They just know that some will fail. And so what they do is they're like, okay, so maybe this is 58. We'll cut it down by 6. And you test it, and you're like, okay, this works. And with Sony so high, I think the money issue, you were right, Bloomberg was like, oh, it's because this. No, I think Sony's money issue was a fab production issue. you are trying to push it at such a high speed that your chance of failure is a little bit higher on your wafer. So, because that's what I
Right.
used to
That
do at
makes sense.
HP. You're pulling that out, and you're saying you're taking it out of the oven, and you're like, how many wafer, or how many work on this thing? So no, I agree with you for sure. The variable clock, not so much, because, for example, Xbox is actually higher when it comes to the CPU. You can prepare for that. But I think all those yeah, for sure, you got to prepare. If they knew it would be able to run at a high speed all the time, I get that some people are like, variable clock's awesome. Variable clock, the easiest way to describe it, it's a little bit more complicated than this, is almost like telling your 3080 to overclock and then not stay at that overclock, but go higher sometimes when it can. What most of devs would say is, well, what it can, why wouldn't we just always be high? That doesn't make any sense. And then you get the thing, well, because then it's pulling more watts from the wall. Well, now it's more heat, because that's exactly what watts technically are. So yeah, you're right, it is that. It's just, it's big. I mean,
Yeah.
all that we just said doesn't explain. Dude, so I don't know about you. You have a nice PC. You got your 3080. I have a 3-fan cooler. I think that's what you have. Do you have a 2-fan or a 3-fan liquid cooler in your PC? Or do you have an air fan on your CPU? Okay.
Yeah, I have a 2-fan liquid cool.
Okay. And I have
loop.
a 3-fan liquid cool, the big ones, so that they turn a little slower because I don't want to hear the sound. And I was looking at that and then looking at what Sony has. And Sony's is probably a 2.5 is what it looks like. And it's got a cut out of one side and all this stuff. To me, what that indicates is you're talking about, and remember, this is AMD as well. So there's some differences in heating. But you're talking about a system that's probably running fucking insanely hot. And
Right.
it reminds me a little bit of the Xbox original. I remember taking it apart, and there's so much room in that. And the reason why is they were so nervous that they were going to have a red ring that they basically had a box. And they were like, let's make sure it can vent the air that it needs to vent, and let's do all this. I think that's what you're seeing from Sony is like an anti-PS4 situation and an anti-their own choices situation. But the big thing is NVMe, man. Have you seen the videos, Dustin, of NVMe at its hottest on YouTube?
No, I haven't. I know that they come pre-installed with their own heat sinks,
Dude,
which says something.
Dustin, it's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen. They will have the thermal predator vision, and you just see the NVMe just go like normal. And it's
And then just
it's so fucking hot. It's so hot. And at long speeds, that's how it works. It doesn't cool down. It gets hotter and hotter. So I think that's all of it put together.
It's weird with this is totally stupid, but with my computers that I build, obviously you want to keep them cool with lots of fans. But if I'm running, like, I was running Doom Eternal at 4K and 120 FPS, and I like was putting my hand over the vents and feeling all the heat coming off, and I'm like, yeah, there's something satisfying of like, this machine's running hot.
Oh yeah, because somebody was saying
nice.
the Xbox was running hot, and then the person who reported it was like, "That's not what I meant." But the thing about the Xbox putting out heat, that is what you want for sure.
Right.
I do think though, what people are nervous about and maybe are having a hard time describing is you don't want a PS4 heating your room issue.
Right.
You do want that. You want the design to be at a point to where it won't be that way. I think that's something that we're gonna see, like in a couple months, just like the red ring, just like the yellow light of death, all that stuff. It takes many months of people. Well, like your 3080, all the reviews were like, it's perfect. And then you find out that there's like capacitor issue, right? And then there's a driver issue. And so that'll happen for both systems, I think. I think Switch had what? Switch has got the drift.
Yeah, that seems to be the main issue.
That's the main issue
with
for
Switch.
Switch, yeah. So yeah, they all have them. I think overall it's been pretty interesting to see the teardowns. It's cool. It's cool to see them, both companies, pretty open about it. Like, here's what it is. Here's what it looks like. I don't know about you though. I don't have space. It's gonna be interesting to figure out how to get those next to my. They're one's ungainly looking, the tube of the X, and the other's just massive, which is the PS5. So it's gonna be hard for me.
Yeah, mine. I'm pretty sure it'll fit in my entertainment console center, but it will have to be horizontal.
Right.
because there's no way that thing's going vertical.
Dude, fucking, they showed
No
that
way.
picture, and I was just like, is that a small Asian man, or is that a big
Is that a
PS5?
small man or
yeah, I was like,
And it's
what's
like,
happening
yes.
on this pic? Yes, exactly, to
The
both.
answer is yes.
Yes, it is a monster. But I think in the end, we should all be happy because, like, I would rather deal with some space issues or even the ugliness of, like, if you don't like the look of one of them, because you'd rather have it cool anyway, you know, and be safe
Right.
and not have red ring.
I did think it was funny that Xbox on Twitter, because they released the teardown and showed how you can move the stand from the bottom to, you know, one side or the other. And Xbox posted this thing, is like, here's how you put Xbox One X or Xbox Series X horizontal, and it just showed like one picture up and the other picture on its side.
Oh,
It was
gotcha.
supposed to be like a funny thing.
Yeah.
The thing though that bothers me about that is you can't remove that circular base on
Yeah.
the Series X, which I'm gonna have to put it, if I do end up getting one, it will be horizontal. And I'm like, well, great. Now there's gonna be this circular rubber disc on the bottom. That, I don't know, it's gonna bother me. It was just so weird for me to see them try to like have this like Twitter moment.
Well, it
and I'm
might have
like,
been because everybody was like pretending that the screw was the most amazing thing they'd ever seen. I don't know if you saw, but
Right.
Polygon wrote a article stating like it is a moment of genius to have a screw on the base.
Right.
No lie, their article states that, and they're like, you know, this is the most artistic genius ever. And I'm like, dude, I have like 8,000 items that have that. What are we
Right.
talking? Like, are we that thirsty? I think we are thirsty, and
Yeah,
Xbox in particular is run by bros. Like, you know.
right. I said this on Sacred Symbols, but I'll say it again here. Sony has nice little touches with their consoles that I don't think anyone else does.
Yeah.
Not nobody, but like the PS4 Pro, the little rubber stoppers are the different symbols on the bottom.
Yeah, right.
And I like they've always done this. The PlayStation 2, you could turn the logo based on the
How
orientation.
you had it.
So
Yeah, that was cool.
yeah, they always have these nice little touches. Is it a stroke of genius? No. But it is neat.
It
I
shows their
guess.
TV chops, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, it just shows that they've been they know, like, that's what they do, is make stuff that goes in your house. And no matter like who else is releasing against them, they probably have that sort of down pat. I will say the PS3, sorry, I think missed that completely.
Oh yeah.
That thing I hated, but I definitely see that, like, it is weird though. I found the Xbox, all their plugins are in the normal places. I don't understand the PS5 having a USB in the center of its column. I still am confused on the front USB. They showed the teardown. You have your normal back USBs, and then you have this massive console with a single USB in the center on the PS5. And I don't know why that bothers me so much. I think it's because I'm accustomed to the PC, where it's like on the top, you know, on an edge. And when I keep seeing that, I'm like, I don't know why, but I'm just like, that means a wire will be going up for me because of how I have things set up. A wire will either be going up out of my entertainment center or down, like across the device. Like, I don't know, that to me was sort of wonky. I would say of all of the ones I've seen, I think the PS2 probably had the best overall design. It just was sort of good. Like, it did its things. It had the little stuff. PS3 was a little weird. This one, I haven't seen enough. I'm gonna have to see this one to sort of make a judgment. I think their controller's better though.
Oh yeah.
Design.
Do you think, one of my theories was, and I didn't think about this until recently, that that USB-C port on the front, I think that's for PlayStation VR 2.
I would assume, yeah.
Because that way that it's right on the front, they can just, you have one cable going in. Everyone complains about the breakout box for PSVR, rightfully so. That thing is annoying.
Yeah.
Especially if you own the first version and it strips out your HDR. That
I have
makes
both
me so
versions
mad.
just because of that.
Honestly, I almost upgraded.
I did.
Because I was able to get a deal. I was like, well, I could buy this one and sell my old one, and then it would be like a $50 thing, just so I don't have to unplug it constantly. Yeah. But so that's what I would assume that.
Here's the thing that scares me about that. Reverb just did Reverb version 2, and they finally said that due to the bandwidth and all that stuff, you simply can't do good quality VR with HD now. using power through your USB device. So they switched to a plug-in USB. Plug-in, a normal outlet. And I was celebrating that because I have the original reverb. But I saw that and I was like, dude, that's fucking awesome, because not only that, it also allows you to extend the cable length, which you can't do currently with the reverb because it's getting everything from the USB. So I think you're absolutely right. It probably is that. But I do think that if it is that, one thing we'll see with both systems and how they do VR is, who cares? Are they going to... So Microsoft seems like a big deal is going to be streaming. I think, especially with their change to, MySpace and all that stuff, it seems like they're not giving up streaming. Sony, I'm sure, isn't going to give it up. I just wonder if Sony, how they're going to handle somebody streaming a VR game, because you can't, like, some of this stuff that you do in the breakout box is on purpose on the breakout box. You can't do on the CPU/GPU and then pipe it through your USB. So it'll be interesting to see how they do that. But I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think power-wise, the one on front is where it is. Doesn't make sense, but like having the one big one on front that's, they have the hyper-fast USBs, which is awesome. Yeah, I don't know, man, because we haven't heard anything about PSVR either. So it's like, how many plugins will I need?
Right. Yeah, I think it's probably smart that they're quiet on PSVR 2 right now.
You don't want to add another price, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You don't want to have the sticker shock. It's like spend $500 on the console and then probably $400 or $500 on a VR headset as well.
I'm so excited to see these consoles if they do embrace VR, because
dude,
the games will be made for them, which just isn't. You and I just aren't seeing that on PC. Other than Star Wars, I just don't think we're seeing that on PC. The game that's like AAA. I think Medal of Honor is doing a game. Fallout and Skyrim are ports. What's games that are full? There's been a couple. Oh man. Oh, the game by Insomniac. They did. Insomniac did the full VR, and then so there were two big ones. I can't remember the other one. Mage something. So there has been a couple, but yeah, it's good, dude. I don't know, man. It's gonna be, and then seeing how the console controllers work out, because I'm really disappointed in Microsoft doing. They added the share button. But that's not. That's it. And then Sony, I'm disappointed as well, because they got the, they've sort of done a step up from the triggers, but I have the little back button thing, the adapter for the PS4, and they didn't add back buttons, which seems odd because they were selling an adapter.
That was weird,
right? And then Microsoft is like, "Hey, buy our Elite," and I'm like, "You can fuck off." Those things are it's insanely expensive. I feel like both of them missed some kind of opportunity. I guess that's just me. I would like to have seen something happen there.
Right, yeah, the back button thing is especially puzzling to me, because they released that and we already knew about the DualSense, I think, at the time that they released that or something. And so it was like speculation, will the DualSense already have this? Whatever.
And I mean, wouldn't you assume? Like I did. Yeah. I assumed, I was like, oh, that's to prepare us,
Right.
Yeah, I don't.
And so now I'm guessing that, like, okay, so if you spent $30 on that little adapter, when PS5 comes out, just, throw it in the trash or something, because I don't think it will even work.
It's not the same shape, yeah. It's not, because there is a different shape there. Yeah, I don't know, man. It'll be interesting to see how that works. And like Sony has they have the mic, right, in the PS4 controller. They had something else. There was a couple of things.
This is funny. I just saw this today. That camera, the HD camera they're selling, is not compatible with PSVR.
The HD camera they're selling.
Yeah, there's a special PS5 camera.
It's not compatible with what?
It does not work with PSVR. You have to use your old camera, which they are providing a free adapter, which they have not explained how you're going to get that free adapter yet. I'm sure you'll have to mail in for it, but
dude, I'm telling you, it feels like you can tell something's happened. It would be, whether it's the virus, it'll be so great in 2 years, because I bet you we will all be sitting here talking about the thing that we didn't know about that occurred behind the scenes. Because like I'm sure you heard, but PS5 was supposedly going to release last year, and then all that changed. Some people are saying now it's because they found out about Xbox, a little bit like Saturn found out about PS1. So Saturn added the dual RISC processor, which fucked them up. So it's like, does that explain why the system looks weird, and why these choices were made? Microsoft does some weird stuff that you can never figure out. I think Microsoft's a little bit more understandable, but one thing that blows me away about Microsoft is why the fuck, how did they not know Apple was not going to allow it to all work for streaming, for instance, to put their app on the app? Like, I was telling a friend going, you're telling me two big companies, Microsoft didn't realize that Apple was going to say, no, we don't want you. Like, you have to pass every game through. Like, how was that not? Look at NVIDIA. They got in a bunch of trouble, too, for doing streaming. GeForce Go, they started charging, and all the developers dropped. All those developers were like, we didn't tell them it was okay. It's like, well, who at NVIDIA then, at a massive company, didn't realize that they needed to call these other... Like, how does that happen? Because you and I, if you're not on the podcast, you tweet us. How is it that we know what we're doing and, like, millionaires at NVIDIA aren't like, oh, shit, we got to tell Activision that we're making this huge change? Sony doesn't do that. Microsoft doesn't do it. I don't know. Something's happened. It'll be fun to find.
Yeah, I think it definitely will be. I don't know. Who knows how long it will take, but...
Yeah, it'll be, what is that, Console Wars, kind of a book or something. Somebody will say, like, well, you know, I found out the truth or whatever. Next thing I want to talk about, so what are we at? We're at, I got us at, we're still shorter, 1 hour and 30 minutes. Look at that. Have you done Legion? Have you got to play Legion at all?
Honestly, okay, hold on. Legion game. I'm sure that once I see it, I will recognize
Assassin's Creed, or sorry, Watch Dogs Legion.
Oh, Watch Dogs Legion. No, I have not been privy to the preview cycle, but I do have a code for it now thanks to buying a 3080. So I will be checking it out.
Right. That's
for sure.
So that'll get to my, please remind me, because that'll get to my other point, which is the lack of any PR whatsoever and what my thought process is on that. So to people who are listening, I got a chance, this will be the second time, got a chance to play Watch Dogs Legion. And I got to tell you, Dustin, I firmly believe this, man. There is a very high chance that this will be the game that people are talking about being the most fun this year. And
really?
I don't mean good, but I mean fun. And the reason why is because this is the third hands-on, and I don't ever stop having fun, which I can't say for the other Watch Dogs games. It is, dude, it's so dumb. It's so dumb, but it's so fun. It's so dumb. Some of the stuff you do in this game, you're just like, this last time I had this dumpy ass, middle-aged housewife in a floral dress, fucking taken on an entire, like a group of bad guys. I was calling in help. I had to take out all the stops because I had no skills. I didn't have any, I wasn't a spy. I was a fucking chick off the street. I had nothing that would like help me with this situation, but I had to do it. And I do this situation, and it was a solid feeling of satisfaction that Witcher, that any Skyrim, any game has not matched, because I wasn't the best of the best. I was not James Bond. I was Juilla Bond. Like I'm not lying. I'm all dumpy, right? Like I'm a good 50, 60 pounds over my, what I should be healthfully.
Yeah.
And I'm in there. And I will admit, she has one kick that I thought was funny. It's a fucking reverse. It's basically a spinning reverse kick, which I'm going to tell you right now is one of the hardest kicks. Like that I think I didn't pass a couple belts on my first try because of that move. It is and she pulls it off perfectly. She's got that. But it's so fucking cool, Dust. Everything you can do in this game is matched to somebody else. So the system is called, there's a fucking name for it. That IGN just did a video on. Shoot, I can't remember. But there's this system basically makes sure that if you don't have an interaction with the person, it won't track the person. But if you have any interaction at all, even possibly just bumping into them, it takes their data and it injects them into the metagame and says there is a 0.01 chance that the guy you bumped into you'll see again. He's slightly higher in the possibility chances. Then, if you say scan him, he goes up a little bit. And if you scan him and read, even have the ability to read somebody else's name attached to him, their name gets injected into this possibility matrix of having a event with them. And I don't know if you were here for the last time I talked about my old game where I saved my partner's wife from getting arrested.
Yeah,
so
I remember that.
That's how that happens, because I couldn't figure out how it happened. I was like, how's the fuck? How was that just by chance? And they said, no, what they do is they track it, but they track it like a real person does. So a real person goes into a hobby shop 10 times and they see the store owner, but maybe they don't see a tag, but they see the store owner and they know what they look like. That's it. That's their first lowest level, is you recognize them. And there's like a recognizable matrix. And it's like, this person can possibly show up at these times. And then what it does is it interjects and creates them a schedule. And the more you get from them, the more it creates this spider web of schedules for other people. And I am telling you, it is the coolest thing in the world to have an experience with a character and then like walk down the street and hear two people talking and go, were they talking about like what I did? It's fucking crazy. In fact, the director said they are at the limit of the current consoles for power, for tracking. They said they are right at the absolute limit. Any game in the future, this will be the basic part. They said, like, we're going to use a system from now on because it works that well. But they said they push the consoles to the absolute limits of tracking and making it feel natural. But I got to tell you, dude, it's fucking awesome. It is so awesome because I do have that feeling that people are going to turn it into a meta game, because right now you have the bad guys who treat everybody like data and like meat. Well, guess what the good guys do? They treat everybody like data and like meat. They even tell you can recruit everybody. So it's like, why would I be a good guy? You're doing the same thing. What the thing is and what they want to teach you is that the good guys don't let their best friends stay in jail. They go and break them out. That's the game. It's like, while you're trying to do all the same stuff, you are also tracking your friends. And if your friend gets caught and arrested, you will try to go find where they are. And you will try to take actions to get them back. And I got to tell you, man, at least from what I'm playing, it is so fucking stupid fun. Like, getting a drone and smashing through a bunch of guys and then, like, grabbing a dude. I threw him on the drone. I grabbed a guy, karate chopped him. He landed on my drone. So I jump on the drone, fly all the way into the air, go over the water, drop him into the water, come back. Because I've dropped him into the water. He's alive, by the way. He doesn't die. But he can't call anybody because he's too far away. So I'm able to go back and get in through his area. Like, dude, I don't think it'll break records or anything. And in fact, I have a feeling it'll probably review poorly, just because I think it feels a little bit like Unity or Assassin's Creed Syndicate, where it feels like an off time and it's going against Cyberpunk. But I got to tell you, man, it's probably the most fun I've ever had at preview events. Like, just
really,
yeah, just fun, just stupid laughing at, like, and wanting to care about, like, seeing somebody and going like, I'm not letting that fucker get arrested. And so suddenly I'm driving my car through the cops and like to like, because you can take control of cars remotely with your system, but you have to actually upgrade all this. So you can't just automatically do it. Yeah, it's fucking, dude, it's fun. Like, that's
what's interesting. What you're telling me is that I remember when the game got delayed, I don't know, someone did an article or someone leaked something that the reason behind the delay was because they wanted to get this system right. And that was one of the most, biggest challenges of this game, is that they were kind of doing this whole new thing. So to hear that it, from what you can tell from that preview, works really well is awesome. And I hope that, they feel justified in that delay because of it. But it's cool. I'm really glad that you're, hot on it, because it's one of those things that, since I was getting it for free, this is a game I probably wouldn't
right
buy.
right.
So the fact that I got it with my graphics card, and now you're telling me that it was really fun, then I'm actually really excited to check it out. And it's pretty soon, October 29th. So
It's what I said in my preview. Is I think so that was the other thing I was going to add. So you're getting it in your card. I lamented this in my preview. I was like, I have no clue what Ubisoft's doing. I have no clue. Why are they not saying this is a blast? What is happening? What is going on? Now I firmly believe that they hinged on the 3080 sales, and that some of their sales will just be, hey, they're getting them through, and they're just hoping for some grassroots. People are getting it for free, some positivity. Because, dude, I'm telling you, what I was playing wasn't magical, right? And it graphically, it's drab because it's London, and London. So I'm sure you know this, but like, if you look at a great game, usually they look best dying light, so you're dusk at night, and during the morning or during rain. And one of the reasons why is because reflectivity and all of that kind of stuff. During
Right.
midday, rainy is terrible, usually. Overcast doesn't bounce the light, and people have a tendency to think everything looks flat in a game. London, unfortunately, at a lot of times looks like that. You're just like, okay, it's gray, steel gray and blues, and they've got some Saints Row colors, and they've got some reflections, but you can tell, like, and I don't think it's going to wow people because Cyberpunk looks like just a neon ejaculate. Like, you see Cyberpunk and you're like, two neon lights fucked. Like, look at that. You know, it's so poignant and so powerful in your eyes. It's hard to see a futuristic game that doesn't, like, against anything because you just see Cyberpunk in your head.
Right.
I feel that this game is not going out to die, but you know what I mean? Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing. There's no PR. There's no nothing. And I guess I forgot it was delayed. You were absolutely right to bring that up because maybe it doesn't fit with what they have planned for Phoenix Rising or whatever is that game? Rising
Immortals, Phoenix Rising.
first
Yeah.
fucking name. You know, in Valhalla, but I got to tell you, dude, I love Assassin's Creed. Usually Assassin's Creed's got a little humor. What I've played of Valhalla, there's not a single moment of humor. It's like Vikings. Do you ever see Vikings, the TV show?
The show?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
So Vikings is like it's depression. It's depression TV. There's never a good time in Vikings, right? It's always dire, depression, dirty, grimy. And Valhalla represents that quite well. But what's weird about Legion, dude, is it's not that. It's every bit of the like GTA / Saints Row, but just more pulled back. You know, not as open and in your face as Saints Row. But dude, I'm excited, man. I don't know. I don't think it'll review though, and it might not even from me because one of the worries I have is that 6 hours in it goes to shit. That's my big worry.
Right.
And I got to tell you, I put some voices in my preview that Dustin, man, so they use AI to adjust. So one person can say, "Hi, my name's Martha." They use AI and they adjust the voice so they can use the voice 6 times. So for 6 different random characters you get. Dude, this was the first time I found some shit ass samples and I played them in the preview. It's bad. It's like, "Hello, my name is Martha." And you're just like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Right? So that could be an issue, is that it just doesn't sound good and people pick up on that. Because my character had a terrible voice. It was like when you type in text to speech, kind of bad. So
Dang, I'm gonna have to check that out on your video. I didn't
yeah, it's
hear
about
that at
3
all.
or 4 minutes in. I do a little cut, and I'm like, "Hey, here's some, audio sounds good in most places." But I noticed in this preview, and then I have like her talking, and you just listen to it, and it's that thing where have you ever played text to speech, and sometimes for a second it sounds good? You're like, "Oh,"
Right.
and then the pronunciation starts to get weird, and questions or answers, and answers are questions, and yeah, it's like that. But I'm glad you seem interested. I think the 3080 is probably legitimately why we're not seeing PR.
I didn't even think about that. And I mean, in addition, not only the 3080, but the 3070, I believe, also comes with it.
Oh
And
yeah,
so there'll be even more people. Dude, people are, I mean, they're buying up these cards like crazy,
there was a
which is weird.
there was a leaked thing too that they showed Valhalla and Legion on Game Pass, and then it got like unleaked. Like somebody, like originally it was leaked where there was like a screenshot, and somebody said, "Oh, these are going day and date with Game Pass," but I don't think they would. I think they'd go with Luna, which is the Amazon streaming service, because Ubisoft's already got a channel on there. So maybe
Right.
maybe they got deals like that. But yeah, it's cool. I'm glad I got a preview to check it out. It could turn to shit because Watch Dogs 2, I enjoyed their preview and did not enjoy that game. So possible. You've gone to preview events before. Have you ever noticed, like, has it been where you've enjoyed it and then not enjoyed it when you like got it and played it later, or has it been where you didn't enjoy it and you enjoyed it? Have you noticed? Is there a pattern?
I don't know if there's a pattern. I mean, sometimes the context in which I play a game can definitely affect the way I feel about it at the preview event. For example, if any, I don't know if any games PR or people that do these events listen to this show.
Sorry.
I really here's the ideal experience for me when I'm previewing a game, either at an event or whatever, is someone talks to me, they give me a rundown that is preferably like 5 minutes or under,
Right.
and then leave me alone. Just leave me alone. Don't try to whisper in my ear. Don't try to tell me what to do. If I need help, I'm perfectly fine asking, and I probably will. But I've had developers like talk in my like okay, I will say this. I won't say the developer of the game, but I will say the event. I was at an Oculus event at PAX, and the developer was whispering in my ear because I had the headphones on, like the entire time, like, tell me what to do, tell me what to do. I'm like, dude, stop. And I had a bad feeling about that game because of that
Oh, I see.
experience.
Yeah, right.
And it wasn't like I think we just did like a video type thing. So it wasn't like I was like, this game's shit, like on a preview, but I was like
It
thinking about it, I'm
sours
like,
the
man,
experience.
yeah.
Yeah.
So and I've had, all kinds of different experiences previewing games, whether it's good or bad. And so but yeah, as far as you know, I think that we definitely when you're at an event like PAX, I do find that I'm more positive on games that I preview in my head, which specifically at Handsome Phantom, our previews are mostly informational, purely like, hey, this is the game, this is the level we played, this is what stuck out, here's the info, stuff like that. We try not to give like a verdict
Yeah, because
on
it's a
a
preview.
thing.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's only fair.
But I do feel like there's been more times where I've left a preview and being like, this is going to be awesome. And then I get home and I'm like, this is
Mm.
once I actually do play the real thing. And I don't know if that's just some kind of like adrenaline or excitement from being at an event like that.
I
But
think it's a snippet too. If you play a game for,
right.
if the game's front loaded for like an hour or two, and then afterward, like Mafia 3 was front loaded pretty severe. I don't know why I'm bringing it up, because somebody just talked about it a couple days ago with me. But Mafia 3 was conveniently front loaded about the amount of time normal reviewers would play it before giving a review. And I personally feel that that was on purpose, and that they knew, they were like, the average reviewer is only going to play this for like 8, maybe 15 hours. So let's give them 16 or 17 and then repeat. And well, I got like that's just, I got lucky enough to get it in time. And I also, it's like, if I haven't beat it or got to some cycle, I'll be like, well, I'm not going to review it. I'll do a preview like I did with Squadrons. I was like, I haven't played it enough. I just don't feel comfortable saying this is but I've seen people where I can tell, I'm listening going, this person doesn't even know about this system. Like, they've definitely
Right.
not experienced that. And I think that some games are front loaded, man. Some or they're event loaded, almost Twitch streamer loaded. And it's not even on purpose. It's just that, like, if you get that feedback from a PAX where people love the starting, then you're like, wow, well then let's let's do more at the starting. And then you find out that they didn't do a bunch at the end. So
Right.
yeah, I
Yeah.
luckily haven't played a bunch at events. I usually end up gabbing. We did do Division, and then we crashed the entire stage, which was awesome.
Oh.
Yeah,
There you go.
dude, the Ubisoft guy is so fucking awesome, and he was like, man, when you're playing this, just don't do this one thing. And Cadiz, my friend, fucking comes up, and he grabs that grubby ass mitts, grabs that fucking handset from me, starts playing, and I was just watching him as I'm playing, and I'm like, I have a feeling he's going to do exactly what they told him not to do. And he turns around, it's like, don't like duck twice and shoot your or reload. Yeah, it was something weird. Like, it wasn't hard to do it. Actually, you could have done it in general gameplay, but I was watching him. He does it in fucking all of the systems, because it was a networked. It was the multiplayer example. All of the systems just and turned off.
Right.
Oh,
Damn.
shit, see ya.
Dude, some of these, I have to say, previewing something else that's interesting about previewing, especially if you're at an event like PAX or something. I know there is like a big conversation around the ethical of accepting swag and stuff like that from, these different companies or whatever. Obviously, I mean, I'm literally wearing a swag shirt right now. Though this wasn't press only. This was like just public for anyone at E3. But I've had like a few like weird things given as a swag item. For example, at PAX, someone for their game gave us air plants in glass, like
Like globe, like you were trying to carry him,
Yeah,
or
like
you'd
a
have to
little
carry him
glass.
around.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like,
The fuck?
my wife would think this is cool. I'd love to take it home, but I don't know how I'm taking a glass ball
Right.
home. So I think we eventually figured out something that like we put it, I don't know, in something else. We might have thrown away the glass ball and tried to keep the plant, but I was like, this is just kind of
Yeah, sometimes they don't think it
strange.
through, you know. I
Yeah.
I, I think, and I think also they're, it's got to be shitty because it's super. Like, man, I went to PAX and that thing, it stank like balls and bo. It was fucking so gross.
It's bad at PAX.
It was gross, and I I got PAX box. I one of the because I rarely get sick. I was so sick, but we went there and we were walking around, and I think sometimes they just also are just uncomfortable as fuck on and
Right.
don't think things through. They just and they're also at home when they decided to buy the glass. It's like, well, guys, we can't take that. We got fucking, you have your little bag, then you have to get your recorder out if you're doing audio. Which, by the way, that was also. I think that's why I don't go anymore because all the fucking tech stuff. It's like I have a task cam for like nice recording of audio, and I was just like, yeah, you know what, fuck it, like fuck it. If if they're not going to give me a code, I'm okay with that. But I'm not going to probably go to an event. Instead, I'd go to the event to like meet people, but not go to
Right.
an event to get like technical data and stuff. It can be rough. Luckily I'm not a cameraman, but I've talked to cameramen who are like, dude,
I've done it, dude.
oh, okay, yeah, and it's just like, dude, it's so heavy. It's fucking so cumbersome. Oh, I froze. I froze
You
right
froze.
at such a perfect time. I'm like, heavy. But so you've had to be the cameraman. You've had to be the one carrying it.
Right. I mean, with Hands of Phantom, we're such a small operation that it's like everyone's doing everything.
Uh-huh.
And so I mean, I I did camera slash editing production work for 7 years before I started working for Colin. But it's like I've got a $1,500 camera on a tripod. I'm walking through the insanely packed lanes of the hall of PAX,
Mhm.
and you've got a backpack that's also heavy, and then when you want to set up a shot, you have to like sometimes you don't have an option of a good shot, so you just like set up in the middle of everything in front
Right.
of someone's booth. So, and I
Yeah.
mean, and it's weird too because sometimes the videos will do great. You'll get like be like, wow, that was awesome, and then other videos at PAX are like, no one cares. And I was like, well, great. I'm glad we spent all that time doing that for nothing.
It's funny you mention that because I talked to Maddie a little bit about that. I think that's also one of the reasons why I cover in a different way because the videos did not. Certainly I lost money. We're talking huge
Mhm.
amounts of money. Like, because my videos, especially at the time I went, I did, admittedly, San Francisco's been a couple where I was a bigger channel, but smaller channel, if your video's not doing amazing, what I found out was like 10 other people with better cameras and better audio were going. It was like, how am I going to, like, what am I going to offer?
Right.
So what I started doing was finding weird things to offer. Like, I'm going to talk to, even if it didn't do amazing, I was like, I'm going to shoot the gap and try to find something that like other people aren't talking about, like a game or whatever. And I think one of my best videos was Blues and Bullets. Did you ever play those games? They're so it's the Witcher voice actor, and it's a black and white noir game about a cop
Oh.
investigating a murder. And unfortunately, only 2 of the 3 games came out because it was a episodic. But I went and I liked it, and I'm like, no one's covering this. I was big on episodic at the time. I actually liked the idea of episodic, so I was like, hey, we'll have him come and interview. And I think it was one of the better videos that my channel did, even though it wasn't a big thing. It was just because nobody else was doing that. But yeah, I think those
Right.
events are tough. These last preview events, dude, have been awesome because it's Parsec. It's like at your house,
Right.
and I'm like, do you guys? I don't know about you. It has to be cheaper for these companies. It has to be.
Oh. Well,
There's no
yeah.
way they're gonna do it again. They're just like, why wouldn't you just say, Angry Joe, we're gonna make sure you're taken care of. You're gonna get your own house. You don't even have to go out. Stay in your jammies. We're gonna pipe the game to you, fully
Right.
to you, right? Like, why would you ever do it a different way?
So yeah, you gotta wonder some of these events, like specifically at PAX. I'll refrain from saying the company, but this wasn't just for the plebs at Handsome Phantom. This was for everybody. Somehow we were invited. This is a few years ago when we were way smaller even than we are now. They picked us up from the convention center in like big Escalades with Fiji water in the back and like snacks, drove us to the event. At the event, they had all the developers and games there, and they had like full uh like food, snacks, drinks,
Oh,
cold brew
wow.
coffee,
Mm-hmm.
like all of this stuff. And I'm like, we're just here to see some games, and this is like, you know, the entire thing. And
Like
I
you're
don't know.
like an
Again, you get
NFL
into that.
pro scout or not a scout, but like you're being picked up by a scout is what it feels like.
Right. Well, part of it was they didn't want the location to become
Oh, known and
public.
public, yeah.
Right. So that's why they had people, pick you up. And I'm just like, man, this seems a little bit unnecessary, but it was cool. I mean,
Yeah, I think we'll
but
see, especially like playing Valhalla or playing Valhalla and Legion, and doing their preview events. I just think, especially with bigger companies, where sometimes they're footing the cost for flight, so they saved, many hundreds of. Well, I always end up donating my flight money because I'm a weirdo. But like,
mhm.
if a normal person accepts their flight, a ticket, I don't know what a flight costs, but now it's got to be even more because of the virus, right? So it just
Well, it
makes
was
sense.
down because
Oh,
no
was
one
it
wanted to
down?
fly.
Oh, okay. See,
So
I
I
thought
don't
it was
know if
still up.
it's, I
Okay.
don't know what it is now.
Yeah, it just
But
it just seems to me we're going to see that a lot, and I don't necessarily have an issue with it because they also get to control and sort of give you more. I definitely have to give kudos to these companies. It's certainly more personable because there's not a bunch of bo and ball sack fuckers walking around, and including myself. After
right.
8 hours in the heat. I don't. Did I tell you the story where my fucking right armpit started sweating and it looked like I was masturbating when I was cooling myself off?
Oh no.
Dude, I have an
No.
entire podcast about this. I don't know if people would consider this risque anymore, so I won't repeat it here. But there was an event I had where it was like, 6 or 7 hours of walking up and, up fucking going up and down steps. You don't want to get in an elevator. When I work out, my right armpit sweats, but my left barely does. Almost never. And I happen to be wearing this one shirt where it was just showing, you get pit mark, right? And I get,
Yeah.
I get like, I'm still, yeah, I lift weights, but I wasn't there and I didn't want to
Mhm.
look like it. So I sort of like clamped my arm down, and then when I thought no one was looking, I was like trying to do this, but
Trying to like air it out.
somebody was
Yeah,
behind
real
me
quick.
who, by the way, she's awesome. I've dealt with her thousands of times since then. She's a great person, but it looked really obscure. It looked really
Yeah.
unique. And, because it's super hot and it's like they can control that stuff. I think it makes sense. Speaking of that, I want to real quick. We're going to, by the way, so that people know, Dustin and I talked earlier, we do go 3 hours sometimes and we'll go for whatever we go with, but we are trying to make sure it's a little shorter. I want to talk about Second Extinction because, so have you played Left 4 Dead?
Oh yeah.
So you are okay. I if I ask if you're a fan, I would probably sound stupid. It sounds like you're a fan. You like
Yeah,
Left
I mean
4
it's been a long time, but dude, I remember when Left 4 Dead the first one came out, that was a game that like a Christmas break game for me where it was like a solid week where all I did was play Left 4 Dead and it was awesome.
And you like those
But
general, like, have you done Vermintide?
you know what? We've talked about that
Oh, did
and
we
I
already
actually
talk about it?
installed
Okay.
it and I played through the tutorial and I'm like this is great. I want to play it with a friend.
Okay. Yeah,
And
dude,
then I never did.
that's so
I
good.
kind of missed the boat on it.
Um,
But
so you have these kind of games like this, and I don't want to make sure. I want to make sure people don't think I think this is anything special, at least right now, because I'm playing it for the weekend for preview, review, what have you. But it's called Second Extinction. What it is it's a dinosaur version of these general kinds of games. And so what happens is you're in a spaceship flying around a planet, and there's different areas on the planet that have high or low threat because of how many dinosaurs are there, and you can outfit up to 3 people out of 4 that you can choose with various weapons you can upgrade, and you go onto the planet and you shoot dinosaurs as you're trying to do various different things, various different quests. There's a couple thing about Second Extinction that fucking I did not realize I need this in every game until I played it. And one of the first is we were running to go do this very generic mission. It was like, go to this area, attach sensors to this thing. And we're running, and all of a sudden a mission pops up that says, do you want to hunt a T-Rex? And I was like, what is that part of our mission? So we stopped, we looked at our journal, and we're like, that's not part of the mission. What is this? We realized, oh, that's like these open missions that just pop up as you're exploring. And the map is huge. So we're like, yeah, let's go hunt a T-Rex, because we've only been seeing like velociraptors, and they're pretty cool. So we decided to go hunt a T-Rex. This is a first-person shooter. I have a minigun. Absy's got like a grenade launcher at this time. And we go up, and a fucking T-Rex is like in this area. We can hear it before we get to it. We get to it. We have this huge drawn-out battle. We kill it. We collect its parts, and we go on with the normal mission. And the normal mission is nothing special. It is really, truly just like, land, get some samples, or land and check where this research station is because we've lost contact. Nothing huge. But what's cool about this game, two things. The open missions are awesome because as you're running around, to have them sort of dynamically be just added and add actual things, like we had one that was like trap velociraptors. Well, normally you kill them. So we were like, how do we trap them? And they're like, go to this area, we'll drop traps. You go to the area and lead them, trick them to go into the traps. So we were like, well, how do we do that without killing them? Because we're so attuned to killing them. Like that's all we've done. So now our gameplay completely changed. And it's like, okay, I'm going to shoot once and then like run backwards over the trap. And then if he doesn't follow me, you shoot. And it was this cool thing that we had not done before in a game like that. We were like, how do we get these? And, want to go over the trap and come up and then boost them up into the sky. And they go to the spaceship in this like cage. They were like booster rocketed up into it. And then as you're traveling around, you'll find supplies. And if you find supplies, you can ask for them to drop boosters on anything and attach it to parts of the world and shoot the items up to collect the resources in those too. And then you go and you do your general stuff, which is shooting. You have a character that's got your fucking, like, you've got 2 weapons that you can choose, your generic character. Like I had a minigun. You have, shot grenades, concussion grenades, all that kind of stuff. But it was so weird because just those 2 things of having open like missions over the top of the large missions. Additionally, the missions are very long. They're not short. Like 35 to 50 minutes. And by the way, I liked it until we died on a little velociraptor as the very last enemy. And we were like, what happens?
Yeah.
And you can normally respawn, but it will attack you to kill your respawn, which I sort of dug. They don't just attack you and know you're down and then go and attack your friend. So if you're being attacked and your friend does not shoot them to get them to aggro, they will just go like, and you'll see your timer go down. And you're like, dude, you gotta like get their attention. So I dug that. But I don't know. Like, I gotta look at the price because a B game, $30 is way different than a fucking game that you're expecting for 60. But I gotta say, that plus this threat level thing was very cool. So the threat level is basically, you look at a map of the planet. You have 7 planets. Maps got like 15 territories each. And they have up or down. They have lower or higher threat. If they have higher threat, that means humans, us, the game players online, have not succeeded in missions in that location. And the dinosaurs are getting stronger and bigger. If you go there, your rewards are commensurate and they're better. If you go to the lower places and farm those, the rewards get worse and worse. And so there's this fucking... It was awesome. There was like this tit for tat where Abzy and I were in the spaceship going, okay, we didn't do well on this last one. So let's like go for a middle threat. Or should we go for the high threat and just hope we do well? And we'll take like, we'll try to make sure we're maxed up. We'll try to really pay attention to what we're taking. And then you go down. Well, at any time you can leave. So we went down and we were doing stuff and we did like 2 side missions, which we stupidly shouldn't have done. We did 2 side missions. We were getting our asses kicked. And we were like, do we want to continue? And at any time you can say, no, let's call it here. Let's go back, but that'll raise your threat level. And dude, I got to tell you, just like the ability to adjust the world like that and have to react to that, plus the open missions, adjusting how we thought about going and like doing the full end mission was awesome. And at any time you can choose drop downs that you have. So like I had ammo, he had equipment. Equipment is grenades and healing, and ammo is pretty much just ammo. But you run out of ammo pretty easily. So at many times you're like drop equipment, but the equipment kills dinosaurs. So you're like drop the equipment on a fucking troop of, T-Rexes, or sorry, not T-Rexes, but like velociraptors. And so like your fucking ammo would be all boom and it'd hit and velociraptors would fly up. Abzy would run over, grab equipment. He'd be like, okay, I'm going to hold them down while you go and you try to get equipment. Then you're out of all your specials. He had an orbital laser, which he killed the Tyrannosaurus with, which was awesome. But then he drops his to destroy the guys. The enemies are fucking voracious too. Like they are definitely not easy. It's got some issues. I didn't see a lot of animal variety, and the preview, which is different than the code I have now, the preview was only the snow. But I gotta say, man, it doesn't look like Vermin. It doesn't look good like Vermintide, right? It doesn't graphically. It's a B-level game, but again, maybe we just need fun, because you said prior to the podcast, you were like, yeah, social media, negativity, it's like, is it getting me down? So maybe I'm going for fun games right now, but it's like,
Right.
I was having, in Abzy, we had issues. We were like, man, there's not a lot of, but there was something about when I got done playing, it's been years since I've been all like, should I turn that back on and just like land and see what other open, so I don't know, dude, but like it's coming out next week, and it may be one of those games that, probably doesn't do super great, but you hear people talking about it like, as being like something that's just on the side is fun. I don't think it'll be Left 4 Dead, obviously. But the reason why I asked is because it's somewhat the same kind of setup. It adjusts as you play. But do those kind of games interest you anymore, Dustin? Or are you sort of like, do you jump into? You said friends, so I think you have the same issue I do, getting people together to play a Vermintide.
That's my number one problem, is that the people, I mean, for the games I've recently played with people is always like Call of Duty or something like that, which, don't get me wrong, I think Warzone is great. I haven't played it in months, but I did have a lot of fun playing it.
Sure.
So honestly, I probably just need to find some people I don't necessarily know in real life
that are trustworthy,
people online
that'll show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, to play some of these games. Because I miss it. Because like in high school, it was like, some kid that you sort of know or whatever, and you could play online with him, and you're not necessarily, friends in real life or whatever, or whatever. But I felt like there was a bigger pool of people in my circle. But now, being an adult, you have less friends. So, um, but yeah, I'm curious, and maybe we were talking about Discord. Discord might be the option to find, people to play a game like this with. But what's interesting, you're telling me about this second Extinction game, is that this is the team that did Generation Zero, which I heard was terrible.
It's horrible.
That's what Colin always. That's like an ongoing joke on Sacred Symbols about how bad Generation Zero was.
We had the same reaction, by the way. I forgot that little tidbit, but Abzy, when I told him, played Generation Zero with me, and he's like, no, I will not play this game. And I'm like, nah, Abzy, come on, man. And he's like, no, it's terrible. He's like, this game has to be terrible. And we played it. We're like, okay, I don't know. Generation Zero is just terrible. It could just have been a one-off. That game is not good. That game is not good, man. That game is so boring, by the way, that like it's a joke in my Discord when I mention it.
Oh yeah.
What's funny is you mentioned Discord. I do want to add, dude, do what I do, man. I put together a game. I'll just be like, hey, do patrons want to play? And you'll get some patrons who are like, yeah, I would love. I always make sure I get the people who aren't rules lawyers, who aren't going to lose their shit. But yeah, Patron is, dude, it's so good for getting some people to play. Or find, if a game's mentioned all the time, I'll be like, check that off as something I might want to look at, because like I see 10 or 11 people mentioning it. And I think Discord could be great. It doesn't have to be Colin's Last Stand, but I mean, it's definitely a good place to sort of see what people are talking about, where they're not prompted like you and I are. It's like, oh, we want to talk about these things. When you see that zeitgeist of people just mentioning a game, for example, like Ghost of Tsushima, I was blown away. It wasn't just popular. It was my Discord was infatuated with it.
Right.
And that's when I was like,
dude,
I get it.
And you had talked about some really good experiences streaming to your Discord.
We do it all the time. Yeah, 24/7.
I want to try that since now I have the power as an admin on the CLS Discord. Just be like, fuck it, let's go for it.
The great thing also, Dustin, you should, because number one, if you ever decide to do like Twitch, one of the nice things is it prepares you. Because I will tell people, hey, have you not streamed? We have a Sunday streamer group, all people who haven't streamed before, so they can learn how to stream to a group who's nice. Like my group knows they're patrons, so they're not going to be jackasses. It's so good though, dude. You can go in, you can capture your screen, you can capture the execute, you can do all that. But when you get it all set up, it's nice because it's a voice chat just for you. It's not a text chat that you have to look at. It's if like they can talk to you, or you can mute them if you wanted, but they can talk to you, you can talk to them, and you don't have to look at anything. It's like playing with friends. So it's very cool, because I have some people in there who stream, who I don't think we've streamed together on Twitch, but who stream in there, and I'm always jumping in because I'm interested in like just talking to them. I'll be like, yeah, I'm just doing this, blah blah blah, and they're streaming Genshin Impact right now, that free to play.
Oh, yeah.
And like last time we checked, there was like 26 people in there streaming at one time. Not 26 streams. Sorry, there was one person streaming, and there were like 26 people in there, just like, oh man, what's this? And as long as you have some rules for making sure people don't talk over the top of each other. Yeah, you should try it. I think you'd really like it. It's very fun to do. Have you tried Genshin?
Yeah, I played more of the beta when it was available, and so now that it's out, I have to play through everything I already did.
Oh, okay.
So I'm kind of a little bit slow on that right now, just because I'm the beginning of the game, and I think this has been a pretty common thought. The beginning is not great. There's just too much. There's a lot of tutorial stuff, so I'm slowly working through that, and I'm hoping that once I get through that, that I'll get a little more attached to it. I'm really surprised though at the overall, um, just like it's become this huge success, and I thought that it would be big, but I didn't think it would be as big as it is right now. Like I just see people all the time talking about it.
You think it's possible that this is because they figured out that you don't need to force somebody to pay, and that you can, if you offer something awesome, that by the time they get to the point of paying, they'll just pay or not bitch? Because I've been informed that it doesn't. I tease my Discord all the time. I'll be like, it's pay to win. But it's actually, from what I understand, it's quite literally not that. And that people have been playing it for like, double-digit hours with no purchases whatsoever. And I just feels like that positive, the positive feeling of being able to experience that,
So I saw on Bloomberg. Again, that's funny. It's the second time I've mentioned Bloomberg in this podcast. But someone did an article there where they said they played like 20 hours.
Yeah.
And they never felt the need to pay.
Yeah.
And even then, they're like, I don't have to pay right now. It would make things a little easier, but it's not necessary. And I'm like, wow, that seems pretty crazy for something like that.
Wildly popular in my Discord. So and I would say they're they're definitely haven't been as pro on other free-to-play games I mentioned, because I've definitely have my share I like. So it seems like that game is definitely popular. And it came out of nowhere for me. Like, legitimate. I saw it, and I thought it was a Square game, because it just, the jet animation a little bit. Every chick is wearing nylons or stockings or whatever. So I was just like, that's what I thought it was. And then I watched a guy playing, and it actually looked like good combat, too, which was weird. Like, he was, like, shooting arrows and, like, smashing bad guys, and I was like, that doesn't look bad, I guess, like what I thought. So
the weird thing too is that it's on phones,
right?
And the phone version is pretty good.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, if you're playing on PS4, you are locked to playing it on PS4 exclusively. But if you're on PC, then you can play it on your computer, and then you can play it on your phone, and then eventually they're also coming out with a Switch version. So
ooh, yeah, Switch could work. What the fuck is with PS4? What the? It just,
yeah, I think that they could make it work. I think you'd have to they probably would have to do something with Sony as far as like connecting your PlayStation Network account to your MiHoYo, that's the developer, their account, because that's how Fortnite works as far as like moving around.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I mean, if Ubisoft can do it, anybody can. Ubisoft's got the Ubisoft store. It matches everything up. You've got all this different. It's like they've got 7 different fucking things that they've matched up, and it works. So I don't know why a store with a single login,
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's just Sony being Sony. But regardless of that, if anybody's listening, you want to check out I mean, at least from what I can tell, it looks really fun. At least from what I can tell. And I was told the only negative to that is you have to be level fucking 15 to do multiplayer, to do co-op.
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
Crazy high level. Like, the guy who's streaming was like, dude, it's so weird. You have to really crunch to get to the multiplayer. So that would be your one negative. What else do we got here? Baldur's Gate. We wanted to talk about it. What else did you have anything?
The only other thing was, and there's not much to talk about as far as Steve in Smash.
Oh yeah, cover this for me. I know
Yeah.
nothing, so
Yeah.
I'm so
Well,
confused.
it's funny because it seems like Steve being in Smash has been a meme for a long time, and no one ever thought that it would actually happen. But yeah, I mean, Microsoft has vocally and publicly said that they're more than willing to work with Nintendo as far as getting their characters into Smash.
Right.
And so here it is. We have the Minecraft default character, both the male and the female. So the male version is Steve, and the female is I can't remember. It's I don't know, the girl character. And then you can also play as a zombie or the Enderman.
Ooh.
So yeah, it's cool. I don't know. For me, I love, even though I don't super care about Minecraft at this point. I mean, it's fine. I'm done with it at this point. I love the fact that Smash is just getting so insane with the level of crossover that it's like I'll be able to play as Joker from Persona
Yeah.
fighting baby Bowser, and the Minecraft dude is there, and so is Snake. Like, it just is, I want it to be as silly as possible at this point, and so having Steve as a character is neat.
So Steve
But,
is the
yeah.
default male. Is that what Steve is?
Yep, he's the default
okay.
Minecraft character.
Dude, I could not figure out what the fuck people. I get so mad sometimes on Twitter when people are like, "Steve," like, what the fucking shut up, man. I didn't know. I had no clue what that meant. So, because I don't see him. I don't do multiplayer. I really do like Minecraft, but I just have not done multiplayer. So you have the chick, a zombie, Enderman, and Steve. And then you have, am I right in saying that Minecraft or that Microsoft also said that Halo Master Chief would be fine as long as Nintendo asked? Or was that Steve?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think that that may have been in reference, that may have been years ago when they were talking about Banjo.
Okay.
Is they were like, yeah, we're down to have Banjo in, which obviously that happened. So now we have two Microsoft IPs, two Microsoft characters now in Smash. But I don't know. There's 3 characters left that they're going to do for Smash Ultimate, and then that's supposedly going to be it. I don't know who's next. I mean, you have to imagine that they're probably going to do another Nintendo deep cut because they've done stuff like Duck Hunt and Rob the Robot. It would be cool to do someone like Wart from Super Smash or Super Mario Bros. 2, the frog at the end.
Dude, or Cage.
Oh.
Wasn't that Cage from NES? Wasn't there a game, Legend of Cage? Or was there...
Legend of Cage.
What the fuck was that? One of my friends loved a martial arts game, and you could actually go underwater with the fucking... with the bamboo and breathe. I think that's Legend. I think it's called Legend of Cage. It was a huge game at the time. So what's 80% are Nintendo, right? In Smash?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't know exactly. I mean, I'd say most of them are Nintendo, but they've definitely gone off the rails at this point. Like,
have they got the Among Us guys, or what's the other running game where everybody was playing on Twitch recently? They look like socks, and
socks.
You ran from one end to the other over a fucking, like,
that sounds like Among Us.
Well, there was Among Us, and then there was the game where you're killing people, and you're trying to hide that you're doing it.
That's Among Us.
Okay, what's the game where it's like a fucking it's a contest. There's 100 against 1.
Oh, Fall Guys.
Thank you. Fuck. What is? Yeah. They're characters for some reason. Okay. Anyway, so have they done Fall Guys?
No. Okay. Which I think that one thing that they've always been really keen on is they're like, we're only going to do a character if they have enough interesting things about them that they can make an interesting move set.
Understood.
So like Steve does stuff like you can mine the ground for
I
resources.
Knew there was
he has like a resource
like
thing.
That's awesome.
And then I'm trying, like Snake, obviously, like for example, a character like Snake, he has all the different gadgets and stuff like that. So that's why people are like, oh, Crash Bandicoot would be great. And I'm like, what does Crash do other than spin around?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, he could spin around. I'm sure they could figure out some other stuff, but there's just really not enough there. I love Crash as much as the next guy. I just don't think he makes sense for
Yeah.
Smash in particular, which, to be honest, they've done more with less. I mean, they made an entire set move set out of Duck Hunt, the dog and the duck. So I guess that's more creative as far as they were kind of building the character from just this like
That's
static
also
NES
Nintendo's
game.
versus Sony's. Maybe they don't want to mess around too much with the IP.
Right. Yeah.
Nintendo and Microsoft crack me up though. They're like fucking the popular chick is like, I don't want to talk to you, and they're like, fine, we'll go off in our own corner and work together. It's just Ori. It came out on the Switch, and like Cuphead, and like, well, Cuphead's PS4 now too. Admittedly, I think. Right. Yeah. But it's just always funny to hear this stuff. Yeah, I didn't know what dude I was so clueless on the Steve thing. I was like, and I fucking follow games, and I was like, who the fuck is Steve, man? What is, I couldn't. Do you know another one that confused me? Sus from Among Us. Suspect.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, I had people DMing me, joking, talking. They're like, I don't know, man. That guy's pretty sus. And I was like, the fuck? Because it wasn't just one. It was like multiple people were saying it. And then people were in my Discord saying it. I was like, what is happening? What is this slang I don't understand?
Yeah, I have not played Among Us. I don't really know what's going on with that. I mean, I think it looks fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's been out for 2 years. It's just did the thing where a streamer found it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Pretty crazy. I mean, that just goes to show you how powerful streaming can be.
Yeah.
Like,
for sure.
Like, no wonder streamers are in games, by the way. I don't know if you saw that, but like, dude, Cyberpunk now has like some her name. There's a journalist
Alana.
she's got a full story, like a side quest story in there. I just saw that yesterday or the day before on her Instagram. She was like, yeah, I have a full quest, like not just I'm here. Ko's in it. And then somebody else they just said was in it as well. Crazy. I don't know if they're covering the game, but it just goes, I don't know. There's a lot of overlap.
Right.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's definitely an ethical line there. We'll see how that gets
hashed out. We'll see if it's a Spider-Man, Greg, whatever his name is in Spider-Man. Wasn't Spider-Man didn't only have, I thought Spider-Man also had Spider-Man had Instagram. No, Spider-Man had Twitter, right? Didn't Spider-Man have Twitter where you like, because you were seeing what people were saying about you? I thought that was pretty cool because like Peter Parker's so engaged in like social media anyway, in the shows and like popularity and who likes him and who doesn't, that I thought that was well done. Man, I got to tell you, it is 2 hours, 27 minutes. We've covered our stuff. I just want to say, Dustin and I, far more efficient than Maddie. I'm just joking.
Oh,
With a third person, it takes so much longer.
Oh, yeah.
It does.
Right.
Do we have anything else on here that you can think? I mean, did you do Baldur's Gate?
I didn't, because I am interested, but not in early access. And from what I'm hearing, that's a wise statement or a wise thing to do, because it's having some issues. But I mean, it's early access, so.
Exactly. I think, I enjoyed it immensely, but I also just think, since you have to replay it, I don't know anybody who'd want to, repeat the same 20 hours when the game finally comes out. Like, you're nuts. I had to do it, or I did it because they offered it, and I was like, there wasn't a lot of people, so I was like, okay, I'll do it. But I don't know if I would have.
Yeah, probably. Actually, we should probably save it for next week, just because I know Maddie is playing it.
Oh, Baldur's Gate?
Yeah.
Let's do so.
His,
for sure.
On Discord, I saw that his tag said he was playing it, so.
Maddie's jumping in. I don't know if Maddie was a Divinity Original Sin fan too, because I think he did a version with friends. I think he talked about that, which is going to be interesting.
Oh yeah, he's a big fan.
Yeah, because that's what Baldur's Gate 3 is.
Yeah.
It's less Baldur's Gate and far more Divinity Original Sin 3, which, whether that's a positive or negative, we'll see. But it definitely feels that way. Did you do the originals, Baldur's Gates, when you were younger?
No.
Man, dude, you've missed a lot of stuff.
I know.
I'm just joking.
I don't think I could go back though and play
Oh, probably
them at
not.
this point.
Yeah, yeah, it would feel rough. Do we have anything else? That's it, I think, for us. Okay, I got to
think
make sure
that's the big things.
we don't forget anything. So we got some generic timestamps for the old Matty. We don't want to.
Yes.
Okay. Recording
They're
looks
not
good.
they're not perfect, but they'll do.
But by the time people get to this part anyway and hear us, they like us anyway, right? Nobody's going to watch that long.
Of
Oh,
course.
hashtag was FOMO. FOMO. If you got this
FOMO.
far, and tell us what you're playing. I would like to know what you guys are playing because we always just sort of blather that out at the very end, and then we never really ask any questions. I'd like to know what people are playing. Dustin, are you streaming anything? Or no, not streaming. Are you reviewing anything or doing any coverage for any games that we can talk about? We didn't do this.
Not right now, just because right now, like, I'm working on getting Colin's Last Stand merch store set up. And it's been a huge endeavor just because of the specific things that we want to do. So, yeah, I'm not really doing too much other than side quest is still coming out and stuff like that. But as far as upcoming coverage, I don't even know.
Damn, that's good sometimes.
But
Doesn't necessarily. I mean, yeah, sometimes it's like it's sort of nice to take a little bit of time off.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's still stuff going on at handsomephantom.com. It's just I'm not directly involved at the moment.
Yeah.
So,
but you'll be streaming. Sounds like he'll be streaming. Colin's Last Stand. He'll be streaming inside the Discord. We'll get him.
That's
to
the thing.
You should.
Last time I did major streaming was before I was involved really with Colin or even doing stuff with Maddie. So I understand that to build a streaming audience, you have to be used to streaming to nobody for long periods of time in order to start building something. I just wasn't for me to do that.
How many would you be happy if they showed up? Does that make sense? I don't know if I asked that question. How many people would you consider that's a good number? Like, so you didn't feel like you're streaming to nobody.
Okay, wait. So wait, if to make it feel like I'm not streaming to nobody,
yeah,
it wouldn't take much. I mean, if you had like 5 active people in the chat, or even honestly just a few active people in the chat. But like I said, last time I really tried doing streaming, well, I did find a little bit of success streaming Mario Maker on Twitch a few years ago and did have a pretty steady audience. As soon as I tried to stream anything else,
of course,
they were out.
The reason why I was asking that is because that's what we do in the in the podcast, obviously, at the end of our podcast, I'll say stuff like, what's everybody stream, because 1 or 2 of them stream. And that gets some, but really, dude, Discord would help with that because you can say, I'm streaming Mondays in Discord, and then like a Tuesday rolls up and you're able to say, oh, well, I'm streaming on Twitch if anybody wants to see. We have a Twitch announce just for patrons. So it's like a channel.
Oh, nice.
So people who are streaming, who are patrons, and we even stop like if somebody says, can I post my friends? And I'm like, no. Yeah, like the people are paying to get into the Discord. Like I'm sure they're doing with Collins, right? You guys aren't doing a fucking free Discord, are you?
It's a $5 and above.
Because I was going to say, ignore anything I'm saying. Just never go in there if it's free, because that's a disaster. Yeah. But if you're charging, what we do is we have like a channel, and you can go in and you can see and who's streaming, and then usually you'll get those people who will go in, and you can start. We've had even like super small who usually have 5 or 10, and I'm sure my Discord's going to be way smaller than yours because I think I have 1,000 people, and that's almost all my patrons. So it's like if you guys have 10,000 patrons, it won't take long to get that in there. It's pretty fun, man. It's definitely streaming to patrons is awesome because again, it's in there, it's collected, but you're not making anything if you want to, and it's not showing to PR, which is one of the biggest things. So I was telling PR people, I'm like, listen, we're streaming in the Discord, so you're not seeing this, and they were happy with it, but they would rather have you on Twitch, obviously.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm gonna, maybe I'll dip my toes in the Discord world, and if people are enjoying it, then maybe there is a reality where Dustin Furman is a star on Twitch. Who knows?
Dude.
Probably not.
It'd be so uncomfortable. At least from what I'm seeing right now. Everybody, every single person I see on Twitch, I'm like, at all. So much drama stuff. It's just so weird. it's so gnarly. So what I'm saying, people, is I really don't want to be popular, but come to my patronize.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. I want to do nothing, but still give me shit. I'm just joking. Anyway,
Yeah.
that'll be it for us. Thank you, Dustin. We had a blast. That was short, like
Hell
2
yeah.
hours, 34 minutes, man. Dude, we're gonna get out.
I
here
can
in
eat
time.
dinner at a reasonable 7:30.
I was just gonna say I can piss like a normal man. I don't have
That's
to sit
right.
down and worry about it flying everywhere. Anyway, that's it for us, everybody. If you guys get a chance, check out Handsome Phantom, and if you get a chance, check out my channel. If you're here already, you've already checked out Maddie's. Continue to do so. You guys will get this early access. Let's see, how does he do early access? Today's Friday. He does it today. So if you're listening and you're a patron, you'll get it early access. Otherwise, Sunday, you will get it. Anyway, that's it for us. Peace out, everybody.
See you later.